All right, once again, time for draftphysics.com, debatephysics.com, also video presentation. So comments on the Reddit forum, okay, and they're just always so bad. By the way, so this is I actually caught this comment, it was 1 minute ago. Yay. So this is the simple subject that, you can just restrict the flow of water, okay, from a pressurized source, and you can increase the kinetic energy of the water by reducing its volume and increasing its velocity. So you will conserve the momentum, but you clearly won't conserve the kinetic energy. And in some way, you're making free kinetic energy out of the same water pressure, which I would argue is a violation of reason and logic. So this guy quotes me as stating one of the hydraulic proofs against kinetic energy theorem, or the living force fable, is demonstrated by a single garden hose. With a constant water pressure applied, you can simply restrict the volume of water, increase its velocity proportionally, and in turn create free energy. So he's saying, why? How? You didn't explain this whatsoever. So I'm just saying this is obviously a conversation for people who know something about physics, so it's not my obligation to explain. I mean, if you don't know what the kinetic energy theorem is and all that kind of stuff, there's really no point in going through all that crap in every post. I mean, every post I'm supposed to explain to you that there's this silly formula that basically says, energy expands by velocity squared, quadratically increases based on velocity. So I'm supposed to explain all that to you? Okay. Then the post would be very long. Yes, every post would be very long if you have to explain all of the physics facts. You have to assume people have some knowledge going in. You have to know what kinetic energy is if you're going to read a comment about kinetic energy, I guess would be the argument. Obviously, so anyway, so this is me talking again. Obviously, the energy will not be real. You won't be able to do any extra work with it. But conventional physics says you must believe the theory slash story. And he says, are you sure? Where does physics say this? So again, it's just waste of time much? I mean, again, I have to explain to you this grammar school principles of what energy is. I shouldn't have to. Anyway, so then I explain, and I think pretty completely, half the water going twice the velocity must be more energy, but even though it's exactly the same momentum. So you must understand the two concepts by now. And even though momentum is the only thing transferred from object to object obeying Newton's laws, which is a fact. The third law only applies to momentum. It never applies to any transfer of kinetic energy between objects of different mass. Okay, so then he says, where are you getting these calculations? There's no necessary calculations beyond just the obvious. There's a thing called momentum, mass times velocity, and then there's the kinetic energy formula, which says 1/2 mv squared. And so that's where I'm getting it from. What source do you have? All of physics. So any physics professor, any place you want to go in physics, and that's the formula. I mean, it really is, sad that this is, people don't think that the physics conversations are about physics. You should know some physics before you involve yourself in a physics conversation. People can't constantly explain to you what wave-particle duality is, and they can't explain the difference between absolute space and relativity, and it's just an awful lot of, it'd be very time-consuming to teach you all of grammar school physics in every comment. All right, anyway. What links do you have for your claims? All the links about kinetic energy ever written. Because every one of them has 1/2 mv squared in it. The formula is in all of those links. I'm not telling you what the formula is. I'm not telling you anything beyond just asserting that it's clear that the water molecules are masses. The masses are moving twice the velocity. Twice the velocity squared, okay, is going to end up being 4 times the energy. This is why you have to make emotional appeals in the title. So I don't know what was the emotional appeal in the title. Well, I'll go look and see what the emotional appeal was. Which is a real new low. This is why you have to make emotional appeals in the title. I didn't see any of that, so let's see what the title said. If you had a young science-interested son, oh, how would you explain this physics lie to him? So how is that? It's not really an emotional appeal, is it? You're just asking the simple question. I mean, you're going to take this kind of seriously. You're going to be fiddling with a young mind, and you're going to explain something. It's just like, I guess I could say, how would you explain to a young kid if he has cancer that it's God's will? You know, I mean, that's a pretty tough chore, right? Is to explain how, well, it's all, you know, God thinks it's a great idea that you suffer and that I suffer watching you suffer, and that somehow everything will be worked out just fine as long as you're good and dead and I'm good and miserable. Then the world's going to be so much better off if you're dead and I'm miserable. So yeah, explaining that to your kid would be pretty rough. So I'm giving you a lot less emotional challenge here. I'm just asking you to tell me how you would explain to a kid bullshit, okay, and justify telling your kid a bunch of bullshit. But unfortunately, you don't understand the physics, so you don't understand the challenge here. The challenge is you're going to have to lie to your kid, all right, and just how far you're going to take that. You know, once you start down that road, ooh, it's going to get ugly, is my argument. Very ugly. You really don't want to be lying to children about physical reality. Ew. You will lose credibility at minimum, right? So my parents did it to me. I mean, they lied to me when I was a little kid, and I figured out, oh, they're fucking compulsive liars. They just keep lying about everything. So I can't trust them. So I had to discover the truth for myself. And obviously that was not any fun, because the truth was they're all idiots. They're all glib assholes. And there's a bunch of things being tortured all around them, and they're just having a party like it's not happening. They couldn't give a shit, because it's not them. And that's the only reason they don't give a shit, is because it's not them. If it was them, they'd give a shit, right? If they had to feel its pain, they'd give a shit. But they don't give a shit just because they don't have to feel the pain. And it's that simple. And that's an ugly truth. People suck, unfortunately. Even mommy and daddy. All right. Enough of that. All right. Still here, so I might as well say some more because I feel like it. It is curious. I mean, they're almost all on the subject, except for this one comment. They're almost all on the subject this time. And every single one of them is unanimously saying it doesn't happen. And, you know, it's just, what? You know, do I have to really explain that this is what actually happens? That if you restrict the flow to half the volume, the pressure means it's going to push the water, and it's going to still be the same momentum in the water, because it's the pressure that's dictating the flow of the water. So it's always got to compensate. So if you have less flow, you've got to have more pressure. That means you're going to have more velocity. And I didn't invent that. And again, everybody's seen it, right? Nobody, I don't think anybody who's going to post a comment in Reddit has never turned the nozzle on a garden hose. I guess people don't turn nozzles anymore, right? Because it has this dial-up thing. But the very idea, you can get the concept that the restricted flow means the water goes really far, really fast. And the not restricted flow means it poops out really lazily. And the simple truth is those things have the same momentum, but they don't have the same kinetic energy. And you have to kind of explain how the same pressure, that is the same pumping action to keep the pressure up, somehow produces these different amounts of energy. Yeah. That's pretty hard to defend, frankly. And such, yeah. So, but it's just funny that they're all just denying the actual factual truth. You know, and so, you know, what are you going to do? They're denying that hoses do this? Yes, no, they do this thing. The water comes out twice as fast, or it comes out 4 times. You know, it comes out at a higher velocity and proportionally less volume to the higher velocity. That's how it works. I shouldn't have to defend the fact that that's how hoses work. All right, some more stuff. Yeah, from Reddit. Yeah, oh, what fun. So anyway, I did hear from somebody else that there was some post by some Maximum Heart guy that was, some sort of pile of crap. But anyway, a big post. And but yeah, I didn't realize he actually posted it as his own subject here. And again, the idea is simply that this Reddit is about finding holes in conventional theory, okay, and challenging conventional theory. It's not for the opposite. And even that would be okay, but it just lacks all kinds of continuity. I'm talking about specific subjects and dealing with them in, sort of this way that's mostly kinetic energy at the moment, all of that kind of stuff. Gravity and kinetic energy, all the stuff that led people to conclude there was some sort of mv squared nonsense. And those are what the arguments are about. It just breaks the continuity of the whole Reddit, the subreddit, to have all these distractions. So yes, he should, if he has arguments to make, post them as comments on the existing subjects. It's not very complicated to figure out where your comment is relevant and post it there. So that's, nobody's stopping him from posting. He just can't post. He can't just say, okay, I'm going to make one subject just for me. Especially in the context where I can't respond. All right, in the context where Reddit won't allow me to respond to your fucking comments, it's really stupid to say, yes, let me have a post all my own. Yeah, fuck that. So anyway, this illusionist guy says, why did you remove the post by Maximum Heart? There were no violations of anything, just well-presented counter-arguments. There was no well-presented argument, I'm sure of that. And a list with crappy experiments, no doubt, that are totally off the fucking subject, no doubt. Anyway, so Brutal Cycle says he can post under the relevant subject. So that's the rule. That seems pretty reasonable. Go ahead, post somewhere under one of the subjects. Okay, with relevant evidence here. Would like to be more organized is a simple point. And yes, that's the whole thing. There's a continuity here. Why do these, these people want to take everything, right? They can't make their own Reddits. They can't make their own arguments. They can't do their own anything. They just got to destroy somebody else's. Let's interfere and make a mess. So, that's the bullshit. So that's all the comments so far on that board, which is not terribly relevant, but what are you going to do? And I don't think there's anything else, frankly. So it's going to be a slow day, maybe. I don't think there's anything new here. This whole subject, though, does bring up the interesting facts. Oh, yeah, there is one stupid comment. Of course, they can't cite anything from the actual field of physics. That's a feature, not a flaw. Now, what does that even mean? Of course, they can't cite anything from actual field of physics. That's a feature, not... Nobody said anything like that. And he does this ha-ha-ha-ha thing. So this is physicist Andy. So this guy's calling himself a physicist. He hasn't made a cogent, relevant remark anywhere. And what the fuck is this bullshit? So we have the Maximum Heart here. Let's see. He's doing this hydraulic thing. He doesn't even understand hydraulics. I mean, he's the one asking these moronic questions. Where I post, okay, the proofs is, and he says, why, how? You don't explain this whatsoever. So I explained that water's coming out twice as fast by the kinetic energy theory. It means it's 4 times the energy. And he's somehow not getting the argument. I'm saying you're making free energy. You let the water out one way, you have one amount of energy. You let it out the other way, you have a different amount. How can the same tank of water produce two different kinds of, two amounts of energy? I mean, that's a pretty simple argument. So obviously this Maxim guy can't make much of an argument. Brother. But yeah, let's go to physicist Andy and go look at all his comments. They're all crap. I mean, what's the point of this guy? He calls himself a physicist. Oh, you can't see him, his damn post. I forgot. Ah, fuck. But he hasn't said a shit. He hasn't said fucking shit. All he's got these one or two sentence comments, not even close to making a counter argument beyond saying, I say no. No, I don't agree. Yeah, well, great, you don't agree. Who cares you don't agree? That's not an argument. It's not even a relevant statement. I mean, what the fuck is that crap? I mean, let's go read that again. I mean, what the fuck is this crap? Of course they can cite anything from actual field of physics. They can't. What does that mean? I'm the one who's pointing out Newton said twice the force, twice the motion. 3 times the force, 3 times the motion. I think that's actual physics. What's your counter argument proving Newton wrong? Oh, that's right. You didn't make one. Do you agree that somehow all the translations are wrong and they didn't translate it right, and somehow Newton actually said, no, it has nothing to do with motion or velocity, it has to do with some sort of rate of acceleration? No, he didn't say any of those extra words, and you fucking know it. Well, anyway, that's a feature, not a flaw. It's just, where are you getting that from, retard? I mean, he's saying it as if somebody said it, which makes it, it makes it just kind of annoying. Like somebody said that. Nobody said that. Oh, here's his other stupid comment with this dude shit in it. Okay, is this the dude from the videos with the sock account? So what's the point of this? So he's just making some implication that somebody has a sock account? I mean, what is this crap? Shouldn't you be watching TV and screaming at the sky about what a genius you are? So you know about the videos, and yet you're going to imply that there's some sock account involved somewhere or something? And then this ha 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 stuff again. And this is a physicist? This is the best we can get from a guy who's supposed to understand these subjects, spent 10 years? Right, the post I'm looking for, he says I spent 10 years doing physics and getting 2 degrees. And this is what he comments? This shit? That's the best he could do? I mean, that is amazing. So it must be in one of these posts, right? Well, we're not going to go looking. But it is too bad that he doesn't have his posts so you can actually see them. He is hiding them. My guess is because physics has already demonstrated energy is real and correct. So that's the extent of the physicist's commentary. So here's the stupid, right? So each one of these, they're just garbage. He's no better than this cartographer fair guy. He can't make a comment. He can't say anything. Can't draw anything. Can't diagram anything. Can't explain anything. Okay. So he says, in 10 years, I got 2 degrees in physics. Yeah, I don't know, what from, Xavier University? Where the hell did you get them? A job doing what, I would imagine, and published numerous papers. Well, I'd love to see one, physicist Andy, so where do I go get your papers? So do I have to look up, like, physicist Andy papers? You're obviously hiding your real physics identity. But yeah, I'd love to see what your silly papers are about. Is it like Valerie Rousseau? Is it about 17 layers deep in mathematical nonsense about quantum spin, upside down strangeness, color, color fartinicity? I mean, they're all, so abstract nobody on earth could ever edit them or judge them because they're just babble. Okay, all by just figuring out how to measure energy on my own. Where did you do that? I'm just curious. Did you build a Joule tank? Because that's the real way it should be done, right? We all should have an experiment to go watch right now. We should all be able to go look at the experiment where they have a Joule tank and then they drop 4 pounds 1 foot and they drop 1 pound 4 feet into the tank and measure how much heat it creates. We should all be able to go see that experiment. If physics was a real science, there'd be Joule tanks in every laboratory and they'd be constantly testing the actual energy of objects. Yes, if they really believed in science, the scientific method, but they burned all the Joule tanks because all the Joule tanks were lying to them. The Joule tanks weren't getting the answer. The crystal ball of the Joule tank wasn't producing the right images. So they had to smash them all because, it's not telling their lies. So the real scientific equipment, the real testing devices, they can't go near because the real testing devices get real answers like levers that don't match their silly fable. That's the real narrative. All right. Pause. All right, so I went. So, just to respond to a comment. I guess I could get rid of that. I don't know if it helps any. Anyway, it's hard to believe that Andy is a physicist and easier to believe that he's an unhinged moron. Well, I don't know if he's unhinged, but yeah, some of it's just so over the top in terms of not recognizing that somebody could find something, that just wasn't satisfactory. The explanation, it just doesn't make any sense. I mean, the idea that I don't understand why in nature there would be some 1/2 mv squared rule, like there's some kind of mechanical device in nature that creates this rule. And yes, it's incomprehensible to me that why would there be such a mechanism, because it doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense that somehow I have to put 4 times the energy in to throw something twice as fast. I've never experienced that in my life. But anyway, it's just silly. In a way, it's just overtly silly to day-to-day functioning. It just doesn't ever occur to you to think that every time you're doing something, that if you're going to make twice the effort, it's only 1.4 the effort. No, it's twice the effort is usually twice the results. It's not 1.4 of the results. That kind of thing. But anyway, well, who knows what credibility any of this has? And, when somebody's under a fake name and they're going to tell us about their accomplishments under their fake name, and that, there's no way to test any of it, this could just be a loony who's just a liar, frankly. There's no way to detect that he's any kind of physicist because he doesn't say anything demonstrating any knowledge of physics. I mean, his responses are vacuous mush, essentially, in terms of not having any relevant physics knowledge in them. They're not knowledgeable responses. They're just kind of Homer Simpson responses. So anyway, just throwing it in there. He certainly doesn't appear to be a professional in any way whatsoever. I mean, he's like a Valerie Rousseau professional. I mean, just frighteningly incapable of taking the subject of physics seriously. To Maxim Hart's actual page and overview. Let's see, I guess we go to comments, right? Posts. So he posted this. Oh, so here we have a whole big pile of crap. Alright, so let's see what this is. I mean, it looks like screenshots of some kind. Alright, let's see. Crybaby cries about censorship, yet threatens to delete post he didn't like. So this is more horse shit. Of course, the post, it was explained why the post is inappropriate if there was any threat to delete it. So again, just liars. They're just such pathetic liars. Alright, so this is a screenshot of nothing. Let's see. I mean, it's not a very visible, useful screenshot, is it? Look at all this crap. Alright, so, well, we might as well read it since you wrote it, right? And so this is from some other person. Let's see. Post keeps dropping like flies. Yeah, this is very old stuff. Okay. It seems you are wearing out people's patience. So, I don't know what this is about. I did reply to this, whatever this crap was, because I remember writing out the reply. So this must have been when I still had an account, right? Alright, well anyway, the energy required to raise a ball 4 feet off the ground, do you agree it takes 4 times the energy? No, it doesn't. I raise the ball quickly, it takes a lot more energy. If I raise it quickly, it's less energy than if I raise it really slowly. So again, they don't even understand the subject. Let's see, please don't bring up false analogies as deformation in car collisions or bowling pins. Why not? Because they're actual, real analogies that actually matter. So anyway, let's see, what is he talking about here? His misunderstandings go far deeper than you might expect. According to him, the answer to your first question is no. Of course, people have demonstrated to him that if you say no to your first question, so there's no context here that makes any sense. So what good is this useless crap? Oh, very little use. Yes, of course. So let's see, your links are 2-year-old garbage I've already debunked. So that's the truth. They're all 2-year-old garbage that I've already debunked. If you don't edit your comment to delete the links, then I'll delete your comment. So what's wrong with that? So this was on my board before Reddit destroyed it, I guess. Post a link to credible experimental evidence, or don't post links. The rest of your gibberish is just that, gibberish. Okay, and so this person posted something. I don't even know if I even got to see this. Let's see what it says. Of course you will. The hallmark of any credible Reddit conspiracy theorist, delete anything that contradicts me. So that's just a lie, but whatever. I'm sitting here reading these comments, and then they claim that there's some hiding going on. There's no hiding from this drivel that you people conspire to post. Alright, I don't know if you can see this because of the way it's formatted. No, you can't see it. So let's try to make it more visible. But what a pile of crap. So you had to go to an image viewer to do this, so they didn't copy the text. They did this image capture thing. Okay. You keep saying, show me 5 times the speed, going, yes. Isn't this the key thing? If you can show me it taking 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast, or you show something going 5 times as fast doing 25 times the work, that's the end of the conversation about kinetic energy. You proved it quite decisively then. I have shown you exactly this with marbles. Oh, so this is Dispar. So apparently this person is Dispar? I don't know. Oh, he thinks because he linked to a shitty Dispar video, that's all he has to do. No, that's not all you have to do. Okay, if you don't believe me, do the experiment yourself. So you keep claiming I have to do your physics experiments for you. No, you say Jesus walks on water, you show me the video. I don't have to go out and prove every time Jesus steps in the water he doesn't walk on the water. It's not my job to disprove your bullshit theory. It's your job. You're saying it's the truth. Prove it. Show it. So you're basically telling me you don't have any evidence for your theory. So okay, then why do you think yours is better than anybody else's theory? Why do you think yours is called science when you can't show me any evidence? It's not science if you don't have evidence. It's hobgoblin theory. Okay, it's something you just made up. All right, you're the one with doubts, not me. Yeah, that's the whole point. And what you think, I'm not allowed to doubt it because you have no evidence? I'm not allowed to doubt it in that circumstance where you produce no evidence? Oh yes, that's exactly when I'm allowed to doubt it, fuckhead. Oh, this is funny. Okay, if it was 25 times higher, it has 25 times the potential. Well, that's wrong. We know in gravity anyway. And we know this has nothing to do with it having potential. So this is something I'll do a whole video on. You know, the whole boat on the side of the river thing. You know, a boat on the side of the river doesn't have any potential energy. It's not sitting there stored energy in it or anything like that. You have to put it in the river. And the same is true with gravity. There's no potential energy in something. Okay, so if I'm holding something against gravity, I could hold it 500 feet in the air, I could hold it 5 feet in the air. It has exactly the same energy, frankly. There's no spring or potential energy anywhere in its system. It has nothing until I let it go. Then it can collect energy. So it's like the boat. The boat doesn't have anything. I have to put the boat in the stream and I have to let it go. If I don't let it go, the boat will not collect anything. It won't go faster and faster and faster and faster. It won't accelerate. Just like the boat, it won't do anything. So obviously this isn't about the boat having any potential energy. It's about the stream having potential energy. It's about the stream being kinetic energy, being active energy. Let's not use the word kinetic. It's active energy, and all you're saying is I can grab some of it. I can stick my hand in it and grab it, or I can stick a boat in it and grab it. I can take it. So anyway, you don't get any of this shit, moron. Let's see. Anyway, 25 times the potential. It is clear that this must be true. So we didn't even get that part right. 25 times higher is not 25 times the potential. So didn't even get that right. To raise the other marble to the same height in 1 meter per second shots would take 25 individual shots. So again, this is all your say-so. So I'm just saying, fine. That's what you say you have evidence of. I'm saying your physics is so bad because, frankly, show me something more credible than this. You've had 350 years. I mean, Newton talked about this very experiment. And you're telling me in 350 years you can't do a better experiment than Dispar shit? So fuck that. And again, explain the consequences. If you're going to say it's possible, then I have explained 500 ways where I can collect that energy, all right, and make perpetual motion. If you're making free momentum, you could make perpetual motion. It's just kind of obvious. All right, anyway, also your spring argument. How can the same weight compress 5 springs in series? Well, I mean, this isn't how I asked any question, but the point is that the fact is yes, it's 5 pounds. You can't make it weigh 25 pounds. You can't make it weigh 50 pounds. You can't make it weigh 500 pounds. It can't put into a system of springs 500 pounds of pressure. It can only put 5 pounds in. All right, anyway. Again, simple. It's doing 5 times more work. So that's what you say. Okay. Because 5 springs in series will compress 5 times the distance as one spring. So to achieve this, the weight will need to be raised 5 times higher against gravity. Well, this is a trick. That the fact is that, you know, when you put something on the spring, it will fall a farther distance. But the question is, how much energy is actually trapped? So if you take the spring compression and trap it, and then move it sideways, can you get the energy back? So you're saying there's 5 times the force in the springs. I'm saying obviously you can't be there. So you're not going to get it to shoot the thing at 5 times the velocity. So that's the part where you have to show me. Let's say you could lock off each spring. Yeah, that's what I want to see. So yes, you could. But yes, and then I'd like to see that you're collecting all of this extra energy. And to put them in parallel. Why would I put them in parallel? I'll just leave them in series. And then unlock them, and they would push with 5x the force. But in parallel, they would only push the same distance as one spring. So in parallel, he's saying 5 springs in parallel don't do any extra work. They do the same work as one spring. So if I put one spring and 5 springs in parallel, I'll just get the same thing. I won't get any extra velocity. So this is like the 2 rubber band, 3 rubber band, 4 rubber band argument. Now, you know, obviously, yeah, they're saying that, okay, it takes 4 rubber bands to go twice as fast, but I'm just saying that obviously you get something more. To say you get nothing more would be ridiculous. All right, whether it's 5 times 1 or 1 times 5, it's the same work. So that doesn't make any sense at all. So sorry, I'm just going to ignore that because obviously the mass hasn't changed any. Same energy, all conserved, no free energy. Well, whatever. I don't even know what you're talking about. 5 times 1 and 1 times 5 as what? If the mass is staying one mass, it matters which 5 velocity versus. Well, there's no point. We're not putting a 5 mass on it and going 1 velocity. So in a sense, he's arguing my momentum argument. 5 times 1 is the same as if you're going to argue mass times velocity. So yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about. You said you had 5 springs. And now you're saying, and the comparison would be to 1 spring, and you're saying it doesn't produce any more energy than 1 spring. Well, anyway, the simple point is right, if I put 5 pounds on a spring, and the spring's this big, or the spring's this big, it just weighs the 5 pounds. That's the only part it collects is 5 pounds of force. So if I turn the big one this sideways, I turn the small one sideways, all we can get is 5 pounds out. I can't get more than 5 pounds of pressure out. All right. This would be extremely easy to verify with clear cylinder and a view appropriately sized springs. Yes, it would be nice if they did the springs where they actually connect the springs to each other, or else put plates between them so they all coils don't unevenly bend. Yeah, because if you're going to bother compressing a spring, you have to compress it evenly. If you compress it unevenly, it compresses much easier. Anyway, another is your rain analogy. Oh, well, that one's just too perfect, so you obviously won't poke a hole in that one. Regarding gravity, and I quote, the longer you are in the rain, the wetter you get. Yeah, duh. The longer you're in the sun, the more suntan you get. Okay, if that were true, so this is really stupid. So he actually doesn't think that it's about how long you're in an up and down rain, you know. That somehow it isn't about how long you're in the rain, which will decide how wet you get. That's just amazing to me. Okay, I think the Mythbusters did this actually, so whatever. You really can't get that much wetter unless you change the direction of the rain. Okay, if that were true, a car moving along at 100 miles an hour on flat ground would become much wetter and the faster it traveled. So that's your argument. And that's only because the rain, let's concede, the rain is moving at a much slower speed than something like photons or some other kind of thing. So we're talking about you have more of a capacity to outrun rain than you have a capacity to outrun photons, moving the speed of light. So you're just using a little catch, to try to get out of the simple argument. But if you're walking normal speeds, it's all going to be about how long you're in the rain, not how much walking you do. How come it doesn't happen? So you're saying it doesn't happen. Go ahead and to prove whatever you're saying. So he says, if that were true, the car moving along at 100 miles an hour on a flat ground would become much heavier the faster it traveled. Well, yeah. Just another comment. Just stopping for that purpose. Just because, yeah, it just gets to this whole. Okay, so the burden of proof. We all have a burden, right? So all people who are going to assert something want to be able to show the evidence table and win the case decisively. Prove the point. And clearly, I'm arguing, okay, yeah, there's a ton of experiments physics has never done, right? I mean, the 4 pounds drop 1 foot, the 1 pound drop 4 feet. Really simple stuff. They won't go anywhere near any of these simple things. And you can just make these logical arguments that why. So you ask the question, 400 times better resolution from space, and they don't do the Eddington experiment. Doesn't make any sense. Joule invents a way of converting motion into heat, so you can know exactly how much thermodynamic energy something can produce. You can break everything down into thermodynamics. You can turn any action into a thermodynamic reaction and measure its real energy. So he invents the thing, and physics never uses it ever again. It's really easy to logically say, why the hell did Joule tanks go out of fashion? I would make the simple argument because yeah, they could do exactly this. They could drop 4 pounds 1 foot and 1 pound 4 feet, and they find out the Joule tank says it's exactly the same. I mean, it's one's twice as much energy as the other. That kind of thing. They don't do it because the test would prove that their physics doesn't work. So that's all I can do is make those logical proofs that the glaring absence of evidence is glaring. Okay, it's not like the absence of evidence is just negligent or, oh, we missed that. You have to argue that it's glaringly absent. Again, the fact that in 50 years NASA never tried to redo the Eddington experiment from space. It only takes 5 minutes. You only need a mediocre camera, and you don't need an eclipse. I'm just saying, they're just saying 50 years of a satellite being in space with a decent camera. In 50 years, there wasn't any time. Like, there was so many more important things to do with that satellite that there was never time to just do this little experiment for 5 minutes. Come on. Yeah, it's $1,000 experiment. And they've never even tried it. So, yeah, that's when you wonder. But, yeah, it'd be great if we had more evidence. So that's part of the evidence against them also. I'm the one pleading for more experiments. And have we heard any of them plead for more experiments? Have any of them said anything about, we should try to get physicists to do more experiments. Let's get Steve Mould and it's Professor Dave, and let's get all these people and try to get them make, the people with slow motion cameras, let's get them to do these experiments. No, they're not doing any of that. So that's the part you got to recognize that in context, that they're more guilty, okay, because, yeah, I admit, the evidence table's bare. The pool has got less water in it than it should have in it. The pool of evidence is lower than it should be. I'm the one that wants to fill it. They're the ones finding all kinds of evasions to say we don't need it. So obviously, I'd argue that's real hard evidence against their motivation, which isn't scientific. It's to preserve the religion. That's it. All right, I've said. Faster travel doesn't matter because it's staying in the force the same time, so it has to travel more distance. Obviously, I'm making the argument it's about time. You're saying that you're going to change the time and somehow the speed changed the time, when no, the time is changed. Changing the time is the difference you're making. You're saying the car's going to be in the rain less time. You can't do that. The catch of the statement is the time is all that you're going to count. I mean, it's too stupid. All right, how come it doesn't happen? Isn't it traveling through much more gravity? No. I don't even know how he made this, how he thinks this way. I mean, how could you possibly think it's in the gravity more time when it's in the gravity less time? And if it's just spinning around a circle, and we're just going to say you're going to spin for 60 seconds. So you can be on the track for 60 seconds. You can go 30 miles an hour, you go 100 miles an hour. It doesn't matter how fast. You can go no miles an hour. So you can just stay at 0 miles an hour, you go 30 miles an hour, you go 100 miles an hour. The argument is you're going to be just as wet because you're going to be in the rain for 30 seconds. I mean, duh. Oh, just amazing what people will argue. Honestly, we can just keep going here. It's too easy to disprove you. So he thought that was a disprove. Yeah, sorry, not even close. Let's see. I've had a harder time disproving some flat Earth arguments. I'd like to see your argumentation, frankly. The burden of proof is on you, sir. So again, why is it on me? I'm saying you're telling me all this crap that's true. Okay, you're saying 4 pounds dropped 1 foot is the same as 1 pound dropped 4 feet. Well, do you have a fucking experiment showing that? No, you don't have anything. I mean, you got to just go on and on. You don't have any evidence of this stuff, okay? Could you show me a generator spinning twice as fast, making 4 times the electricity? Could you show me that? Or 3 times as fast, making 9 times the electricity? Just show me that, and then we're all done. So this is just so bull. Oh yeah, well it's really easy when you don't provide any counter argument. Okay, so yes, it's really easy. I mean, just amazing. And the proof is on me. I have to prove it's not true. You don't have to prove it is true. Then that's all you're saying, clearly. You have lots of air tracks. You have billions of dollars, tons of universities. You don't have to prove anything. I, in my basement, have to do all the experiments. I have to do the Eddington experiment. I have to build a satellite and send it up into space with a camera on it and do the Eddington experiment because you can't do it somehow. It's just such bullshit. We are all comfortable with the laws as they stand. So yeah, and that's exactly the point. It's a nice little cozy religion, and that's all it is. The Catholics are comfortable with their hypocrisy and their duplicity and their nonsense. Oh yeah, go ahead and sin and then just say you're sorry. It's really easy to play Catholic. Oh, fuck. Fuck you. Fuck this bullshit. Let's see. If you propose something different, do the experiment yourself. So again, why should experiments be done in people's basements? I just don't understand why this is how science should be done. A bunch of amateurs gluing things on matchbook cars. That's how science should be done. You shouldn't do anything clinical. You shouldn't bother with any of those 1,000,000 frame a minute cameras. No. Just shoot bullets into watermelons. That's all people want to see. Amazing bullshit. All right. Since no matter what experiments we post, you always seem to invent a rebuttal. Well, because they are rebuttable. And that's the whole point. You don't think any of this is rebuttable. You don't think it matters how you do an experiment. So if you pull the pendulum back this way with big heavy weights on it, are you really going to measure the force of the rubber band, or are you going to measure some force of gravity? And the whole point is if they're pushing it faster, it means it's going to be in the gravity less time, which means it's going to get less of an assist from gravity. You don't think that's a real physics argument? How fast you push something down in gravity isn't a physics argument? Yeah, fuck you. He says sheer arrogance. Yeah, that's you, buddy. All right, well, that was interesting. But crap, I mean, it was obviously crap. But all right, so this is just the image thing. Okay, so I'll get rid of this image thing. And so there was text in the post too, or not? I can't quite tell how this fucking bullshit works, this image thing. I don't know this was a feature that you could do this weird scrolling image thing. I have to find out what, I guess, maybe it's a PDF? I don't know. How do you make a scrolling image? That is weird. That you can't read, of course. Okay, so I guess there's nothing else there. And it doesn't say who it was posted by, though. So, but this is Maxim Hart. So this was, I don't know what this is. Is this the post he posted? Maybe it is. All right. This didn't show up anywhere else, I guess. All right. So anyway, let's see what else is here. The endless rabbit hole of misunderstanding of draft science, aka draft physics, force, energy, momentum. Okay, let's see what that one is. Oh, a big pile of crap here. Whoa. Whoa, this must be the one they're talking about. Oh, brother, yeah, well, this will go on forever. So this will be a big piece of shit. All right, excellent. Yeah, it's always good to see a big piece of shit. So this is a guy, like I said, who couldn't really understand the whole water argument. Couldn't understand that half the water going twice as fast means it's twice the energy. All right. The following thread is meant to... Oh, gee, I can't really read that, so I'm going to have to make that bigger. I can't see it. All right, let's see how it's showing up for you. Got to make it bigger here. All right. Fuck, this is just... this is it. It's pretty irritating, actually. Can't get any real physics arguments out of any of these people. No evidence, just crap. Alright, the following thread is meant to save some time and energy for anyone who comes across draft science. Okay, why are you putting this in Mendham shit in here? Does this have anything to do with that channel at all in terms of the basic arguments? No. Why? Why are you doing that? If I know your name from another channel, should I do that on every place you post? I should put whatever your other channel names might be somewhere? And that would make sense to you as being something to do? I mean, what a fucking stupid-ass thing to do. But anyway, who cares? But I mean, it's just stupid. What the fuck are you doing this crap for? You can't just make your fucking arguments? Oh, Christ. I guess I'll say something. I'll do, okay, when I next reply to you, you motherfucker, I'll make up a whole fucking narrative about this stupid user. And go through the whole stupid narrative before I get to the point that you're a retard. All right. There's a lot to go through, but it would be important to go over what he says about kinetic energy. Yeah, what's in the posts. That's why they're a paragraph long, is to make it nice and simple and nice and easy. And they're individual subjects, and you just say, okay, here's this subject, there's this subject. So why can't you do that? Why can't you just respond to the fucking posts? Why can't you do that? Oh, that's right. We saw you responding. You don't even understand the concept. You don't even understand what kinetic energy is, but you don't understand that when something is half the mass and it's going twice the speed, that means it has twice the momentum. I mean, it has twice the kinetic energy by your theory. All right. Draft science is known for his rude, abusive, and callous approach towards anyone who disagrees with him. So that's not true. So if you could disagree with me without insulting me first, you might get somewhere. But obviously none of you do that. So that's just a lie. Okay. It just takes a single perceived microaggression sometimes. Oh, okay, so you get to decide what you say is an aggression. I don't get to say, well, look, you called me dude. Sometimes that's enough. Because there's no reason for anybody to call me dude. Okay, I'm not anybody's dude. I don't have to take that shit from any of you fucktards. So yeah, there's lots of things I could be triggered on. And I think they're rightful things to be triggered on. I don't know. I never call anybody a dude. Yeah. All right, anyway. He and his fans justify it as a valiant effort to promote and defend the truth. But yes, an honest description of the real science, the real status of the science, where they have done no experiments, they have assured up proven nothing, they've just accepted religious axioms, and that's all they have is religious axioms. Thou shalt pray to the 1/2 mv squared. But in reality, as we will see and demonstrate, he's going to demonstrate something, is that this is just something he says to himself. So he's wasting all this time not getting to the subject. I'm going to talk a bunch of crap and blah, 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 because that's what we do. We distract and we talk a bunch of crap, and we never really get to the subject because we just distract and talk a bunch of crap. I don't show, this little asshole doesn't show what he looks like, so I can't make fun of it. I can't make a clown image of him. I can't do all the crap that his friends would do. Oh, he's just such hypocrisy. Anyway, is that this is just something he says to himself to feel good about being an abrasive asshole. What does being abrasive asshole have to do with physics arguments? I'm just saying you can see the physics arguments are right there. What's abrasive asshole about the physics arguments beyond me saying the plain truth? Physics is wrong. Here's the argument. Why can't you just counter the argument? Show me it taking 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast, and there, you've obliterated my argument. You've blown it up. But you won't do that. All right, the worst and maybe most infuriating part is that he does this while committing blatant, nonstop straw man. So this is the big lie here. So fuck you, straw man. What's the straw man? They're overt arguments describing real circumstances that can't possibly be true. You can't both conserve the linear momentum and melt the ballistic pendulum. You can't melt the ballistic pendulum and conserve all of the linear momentum. How is that a straw man, you fucking piece of shit? God, you people are just such liars. All right. Let's see. From his inability to understand anything anyone says for more than 5 seconds. Yeah, fuck you. I mean, all this time I spend reading this shit and responding to this shit, and this is the shit you get for it. This whiny bullshit that somehow I haven't given them enough time. Fuck you, liar. All right, indeed. Almost all his responses, he needs comments or watches videos, but interjects almost every... Why shouldn't I interject every fucking sentence? Isn't every fucking sentence a statement? I would expect that's exactly what I would like from one of you weak asses, is for you to actually take my arguments and debunk them. The only people who ever debate me, know what they do? They just play the video, and then 10 minutes later they say, oh, I don't agree with that. Yeah, I would expect you to debunk every sentence. That's exactly, every sentence is a statement. Every sentence should be debunked, because every sentence you type is a fucking lie. Because you're just a petty dickless weasel. All right, anyway. Every sentence fragment without understanding the full arguments presented to him. So again, it's obviously you who don't understand arguments, because you don't understand why having half the volume of water moving twice as fast is a problem. That alone should be enough to conclude that's what he does is not an effort to search for or defend the truth. So the whole first paragraph, nothing about science. No physics at all. Just crap. Okay. So it looks like the second paragraph is going to be the same shit. Oh, great. He pleads with people to engage with him and his arguments, but he fails to grasp anything. Oh, you already said this failed to grasp things, so you're just being redundant now. I think you're a moron. You're stupid, too. So, wow. Anyway, anyone says, which results in him ending the insults and attacking on others due to his own lack of understanding or anything. I'm rubber, you're glue. I mean, all this is just such useless waste of time. If you catch his attention too much, he will make a barrage of videos with unpleasant titles of your username. Given all his knowledge, it stands to ask, why would anyone engage with him at all? So obviously, if people have, again, you're saying that I'm doing something, and I can absolutely prove that they did it first. You think I insulted Professor Dave first? You think I insulted any of these people first? No, I asked them to address these subjects, and they just said, fuck you, flat earther, or some other kind of crap like that. So it's not my responses to people that are impolite. It is theirs. And obviously, if somebody like Veritasium makes a video claiming electricity moves outside the wire, I think people should be a little hostile. If Steve Mold makes a video saying, levers don't conserve momentum, I mean, yes, people should be making hostile videos. But I don't exactly remember where I did any of this, whatever you're saying, this username mush and all this other stuff. But whatever. Most people sensibly move on, which is, well, I don't think most people do when there's a real argument to watch. People love a real argument. Unfortunately, none of you people can make one, so, you ruin the fun. Which is why his hour-long monologues. So again, if you go to the trouble to actually talk physics, and so they're hour-long monologues talking about and drawing physics. And that's not the scientific way. The scientific way is just to say, fuck you, shut up. Don't think, calculate. There, we're done. Despite this, he has no self-awareness about any of this, and he ends up repeating the same talking points across hundreds of your long videos. And yes, I'm repeating them because amazingly there's nothing, not a shred of a counter-argument to be found. And it's displayable. I can go to every one of these subjects and show vacuous comment, vacuous comment, vacuous comment, vacuous comment, vacuous comment. All right. or irrelevant comment, obviously. So 2 paragraphs of nothing. No physics involved at all. Amazing. All right. Draft Science initially got interested in physics because he wanted to debunk quantum mechanics and relativity. Well, that's not true, but whatever. Yeah, the double slit, but I mean, that doesn't have anything to do with relativity. Relativity seems obviously silly. I mean, the very fact that you people don't think there's absolute space with absolute distances in it and with absolute photons all over the place, I just think makes you so ridiculous. You really think you can compress it and expand it and do all this bullshit that you can take that real physical stuff and you can just make it go closer together or further apart or however you want to do this bullshit? I mean, it's just absolute nonsense. The universe is full of stuff separated by space. Duh. It's like microbes in water. Anyway, it's so silly. Well, anyway, quantum mechanics and relativity, like all other crackpots. So, again, so there's nobody can argue with them without being a crackpot, see, because they have indestructible pure physics, even though they've never proven 4 pounds dropped 1 foot is the same energy as 1 pound dropped 4 feet. Let's see, by around 2020, there was a physics video by Physics Girl. I think it was earlier than that, but whatever. That confused him. Well, whatever. See, this is your rhetoric, and I obviously find it irritating. It didn't confuse me. It annoyed me because it was such crap. We conserved the linear momentum, but we did a whole bunch of exploding and destroying and breaking over here. So the same momentum did a whole bunch of work here, and it did work over here too. Yeah, can't do both, retard. Oh, God damn it. I mean, it's like a mousetrap working more than once. Doesn't work that. Oh, it smashed one mouse and then popped back the way it was. No, it can't do that. Physics Girl, that confused him. After finally learning about what classical math... See, they call it classical, and that just isn't what it is. It's Leibnizian physics. And it goes into Deschardelet's silly dent the clay with the round objects physics. So it's got all of this really bad science tied to it, and he'll take no account for that truth. So will this lying sack of shit ever account for the fact that Leibniz had zero evidence? He couldn't cite any experimental evidence for his living force. And that Deschardelet did a silly experiment with clay that demonstrated that you can fool some of the people some of the time, blah, blah, blah. But it was just a fool you experiment. Are you going to account for those facts? No, you won't, because you're a lying cheater. Okay, all right. After finally learning about what classical mechanics actually says about energy, 10 years in proclaiming to be an expert who understands everything deeply, well, I obviously understand a lot of things better than you. I understand gravity is a time-dependent force, and I understand electrons and protons are charges, and they're just like magnetic monopoles, and I have simulated their function with very simple rules. So I do understand all of that too. Let's see. He's become extremely committed to making videos about kinetic energy nonstop. But I'm also posting on Reddit now. Yeah, and getting banned for making physics arguments. Unlike your crap. So 3 paragraphs of diatribe, okay, where he's going to define who I am. So I should waste 3 paragraphs of text describing what I think this little weasel does in his spare time. All right. The problem is that, so he's still not going to do physics. Okay. The problem is that although Draft Science thinks and proclaims he is the defending Newton, well, I am doing that. So it's just an absolute fact that Newton said twice the force, twice the motion, 3 times the force, 3 times the motion. That's an absolute fact. He didn't say twice the force, 4 times the energy. He didn't say anything like that, right, retard? Okay, he gets almost everything about Newton wrong, so that's just a lie. Okay, he doesn't get the minor details wrong. He completely misunderstands the entire theory of Newtonian mechanics. So we're going to get an example of that. These people, again, they claim that Newton believed in kinetic energy and yet wrote a third law where kinetic energy always fails. Anytime you convert the energy from a light thing to a heavy thing, or a heavy thing to a light thing, the third law has nothing to say. It won't be relevant. So that's what they claim. I mean, it's a ludicrous proposition that Newton believed in kinetic energy and yet wrote the third law. He would never have written it. All right, both as it was conceived around 1700s, it's pretty late 1700s, and as it was conceived nowadays. So what's the difference? We're talking about what Newton actually believed. We're not talking about what nowadays we conceive. Okay, the problem is that this misunderstandings are several layers deep. So this is just all more narrative. Yes, okay, your brain is, you know, several layers of, you know, calcification, and it doesn't work anymore. I mean, what's these silly insults? And it actually takes a bit of effort to untangle all these layers. Oh, like Professor Lewin, who bails out. He says, I'm going to give you a sleepless night. Yeah, see, you hit something and twice the momentum goes into the object and you get all your energy back. Sleepless night, have fun. Yeah, that's real brave physics there. Yeah, what a pile of crap. Okay, finally we're somewhere. He rejects that F equals ma. I point out that Newton didn't say it, and what the fuck is acceleration but a change in your velocity? So it's F equals your mass times the change in your velocity. So we don't need the word acceleration, because see, you use the word acceleration to pretend it's per second, and it's second squared, and there's no second squared. All right, instead he thinks momentum equals force equals energy equals power equals heat equals everything. Yes, every word you can use to describe anything called motion. So you missed the motion part. You missed, but yes, it's heat is the key one. It's all thermodynamics, and that's what's being conserved. Despite the fact that all these are distinct concepts with incomparable units. So he, you know, this is what, you know, I could just play the Feynman quote at you. Feynman says, no, it's true. These are all useless words because, frankly, they can all be converted into each other. So why are we using calorie and Kelvin and this and this and that? There should be one unit and that's it. So fuck you. You're not on the subject. You're not saying what conventional physics says, which is all of these different units are superfluous and just confuse the subject. All right, concepts with incompatible units invoking universality in all scientific and engineering disciplines. So again, the point is that you won't show me where momentum ever gets a wrong answer. So go ahead and show me where analyzing a system thermodynamically or based on momentum will get me in trouble. He says converting between joules, which is Newton meter, and newtons is trivial. But this is like saying that you can convert a meter into hours without any conversion constant. Well, the conversion constant is 10 to 1, so we already have the answer. I mean, it's just a fact, okay, that you claim a joule is the force of a Newton, 100 grams, hitting the ground after falling 1 meter. So if that's a joule, you can dissect the 1 meter fall into the change in the weight, which is 10. And so, yeah, a kilogram is a joule. The weight of a kilogram is a joule, and the weight of 100 grams is a Newton. So that's a pretty easy conversion, fuckface. Is it my fault that it's an easy conversion? No, it's not my fault. It's not right. I'm just, don't get me wrong. When they say newtons, it's not going to work, because their definition of a Newton is abstract nonsense. I mean, it's a weight. Momentum is a weight. You're applying a pressure over time. It's a weight applied over a time. That's what an impulse is. So you don't even get what momentum is. It's a weight. Second, he refuses to understand the difference between scalar and vector quantities. Well, this he puts in bold, and you're just saying there is no thing to understand. I'm saying draw me a scalar. Show me how scalar energy works. Show me how the atoms make scalar, or how how do you make scalar energy? Where is it? What is it? There's no such thing. Non-directional energy is a nonsensical concept. All right. He thinks that if you say kinetic energy is a scalar quantity, the scalar quantities are numbers that don't express direction, then you must be making some presumptive statement about objects moving in a direction without direction. Yes, you're making a statement about this motion. Kinetic energy is about motion. Motion in no direction is baby talk, silly, imbecilic, nonsensical. It's just plain fucking retarded. And it's obviously not Newton's physics. Newton thought everything had vectors. Okay, that's how he dissected how rainbows work. It's vectors, vectors, vectors. There's no scalars. All right, this is the kind of straw man he produces. So what's the straw man? I'm asking you just to explain it to me. Show me something that has kinetic energy in it, okay, that's not its linear motion. So something has linear motion, a train. Show me where the kinetic energy part is. Show me. Yeah, explain it to me. Where is it hiding right now? When the train's moving down the track, where is the kinetic energy portion hiding? All right, to be clear, a scalar quantity is just used as a description of some aspect of an object. Some aspect like what? Spin? Some aspect like what? What is it? What? How can you claim there is an energy in it, a living force, trying to get out or something? I mean, it's a preposterous hobgoblin theory. I mean, I wish I could. I wish I had an audience. I could just say this to some 13-year-old kids and say, you get it, right? This guy's just talking out of his ass, right? I mean, what the fuck is this silly comment? There's some sort of motion that isn't motion? All right. For example, when you express something has a speed of 5 miles an hour, you say that the speed, so we know it's velocity, but whatever, is a scalar quantity. You say it, not me. You are merely describing the magnitude of the object's motion. Well, that's its linear momentum. So again, that's not the same thing. So again, you're just, you're lying. We can see the MV part. We can't see the fucking squared part. You have to show me where the squared part is. The MV is obvious. Show me where the fucking squared part is hiding. The gigantic part. The incredibly, the million more joules of energy are hiding somewhere in the object. Show me that. Fuck. All right, let's see. Magnitude of the object's motion. So that's just such a lie. It's obviously not motion. If it was in the motion, then you could show it to me as motion. So obviously it's not in the linear motion, you liar. Let's see. You are not saying the object must be moving at 5 miles per hour, but not in a direction. You are not saying the object must be moving at 5 miles per hour, but not in any direction. So you're not saying it's moving and you're not saying it's in any direction? That sentence is crap, right? I didn't read that wrong. That's just a shit sentence, right? You are not saying the object must be moving at 5 miles an hour, but not in any direction. Doesn't make any sense. He thinks the distinction between a vector and a scalar is nonsense. I think it's absolute made up shit. There's no fucking such thing. It's as stupid as a fucking pixie. Okay. It's Tinkerbell. You might as well just tell me there's Tinkerbell energy. But again, he doesn't even understand what the words mean. How can you understand a concept that has nothing? There's no way to, how can I make up this fake motion that doesn't go in a direction? How can I make that up in my head? To begin with, this is going to be important to keep in mind for the next point. So these points are horrible. I might as well finish this, right? I mean, it's tedious, but what the hell? I'm here. Well, maybe I'll take a break. Ugh, just horrible. What a pile of garbage. Alright, back. So it just is unfortunate. These people can't make videos. They can't draw anything. So they can't really, counter anything. And they never really argue any of my arguments. So I make all these arguments and they just ignore them. And that's why I have to say them over and over again, because they just keep ignoring them. Anyway. Third, although he says he defends conservation of momentum, he doesn't actually believe in conservation of momentum. So, I mean, it's just so silly. It's a thing. You can observe it. Mass times velocity. I mean, it's a kind of obvious. If you're not conserving it, it's obvious. It'll show up. Because he gets the definition of momentum wrong. What's the definition of momentum? In fact, he denies conservation of momentum. So this doesn't make any sense at all. I'm saying everything in the universe is a mass, and everything in the universe is either moving or not moving, and so it has a velocity, or even a velocity of 0. So everything has a momentum, and that's all there is in the universe is stuff with momentums, and they bang into each other and react in those, share their momentums, exchange their momentums. Yes, you can read that right. I don't know. There's nothing to read here. I mean, it's just, again, what's a stupid accusation? I don't believe in momentum when obviously I'm sitting here defending it as the core of the function of the entire universe. Whatever. Although he says momentum is a vector, or at least says he rejects that it is a scalar. What the fuck? Why would I think it's a scalar? And of course, I have a simulation where it's all little arrows. I mean, I could show you that here, right? I mean, it's all made of little arrows. You won't be able to see that. All right. Well, anyway, it's in the background somewhere. It's probably on one of these other things, right? Let's see. Some of it. Yeah, there's some of it right down there. Little arrows right down there. So, I mean, this is just, fuck this shit. This is just so, these people just can't put words together and say anything honest at all. Just amazing. All right, rejects that it is a scalar. Well, of course, he betrays this by ending up treating momentum as if it were a scalar in the circumstance when momentum of different objects are added up. So it's just a lie. I'm saying, of course, you add momentum. Momentum is always real motion. Motion plus motion equals motion. You can't make motion plus motion equal no motion. It just won't happen in the real universe. Elastic or inelastic, it doesn't matter. It's all thermodynamics. It's all heat. Anything moving is heat. And you can never kill the fucking heat. And that's the argument I've been making all this time. And you're just such a lying weasel to imply that somehow I ever said anything variant from that. There's no plus and minus energy. There's no plus and minus motion. There's no such thing as unmotion. Something isn't moving through the universe unning something. It's not anti-ing something. You fucking idiot. God, people are just so dishonest. All right, anyway, since momentum is defined as a vector, it's not about a definition, it's about its overt function. If it's got a velocity, it has a vector. In any rational person's book, velocity means, yes, you have to be going somewhere. You can't have a velocity in no direction. All right, part of the definition implies that when the objects are moving along one dimension in opposite directions. So again, he's saying this is their bullshit, and I'm supposed to believe their bullshit for no reason. I'm supposed to believe there's something called negative motion. And of course I don't. That's like saying negative heat. Is there any reason to believe there's anything in the universe that's called negative heat? No, there's no negative heat. All right, it says P1 and negative P2 along the same direction X. So he can't draw anything, he can't draw an image of anything. So he has to do all this word salad to try to describe this thing. So he has something going this way, something going that way. Okay. The total momentum is P1 minus P2. Well, why would I bother with this minus crap? It's energy in plus energy in. That means you have two pluses. It doesn't mean you have any minuses. All right, along direction X. Draft science, however, thinks it should be P1 plus P2. Yes, exactly. So what's so complicated? Without any specification of the direction. Yes, direction is always irrelevant because it's all positive energy. As a result, he is in fact defending conservation of some other nameless quantity. So again, no, I'm not. MV doesn't have a sign, so again, this idea that the vector has a sign is just nonsense. You've made that up. That isn't built into momentum anywhere. Okay, that is not momentum, so what a pile of crap. So he's saying they have the right to tell me what momentum is, that MV is somehow, even though it says MV and it doesn't have a sign on it, he's saying, well, we have already put signs in there, so it could be plus MV or it could be minus MV. Yeah, so it can be a minus velocity. That's their argument. They can make something have a minus velocity. Yeah, too ridiculous. All right, anyway, this is where it gets confusing. There's no confusion because he constantly says conservation of momentum is critical to the theory and that it does nothing but defend conservation of momentum. The truth is that every single time he says that, he is has a different notion in his head than what everyone. Yeah, it's not about what you. The whole point is I'm arguing with you because you people are idiots. Yes, you don't understand either thing. First, you believe in hobgoblins, and then you've completely broken something as obvious as MV. MV is always positive. MV is always work. It's always energy. It's always hot. You can't make a motion in the universe. There's no motion in the universe you can make cold. Motion is always hot. It's always plus. And makes an equivocation fallacy. Says you. You're doing so again. Rubber glue, rubber glue, rubber glue. All your little petty accusations just throw on top of your own face, you fucking butthole. So no, he doesn't believe in conservation of momentum. So again, it's just all this time wasted with all this crap just to say this silly shit. Okay, that somehow I'm not defending momentum when I am clearly doing that. And I'm clearly doing it perfectly reasonable to understand that all motion is heat, and there's no such thing as negative heat. So that would be the simple argument. Can somebody sit there and pervert that sentence into something and say somehow there is negative heat? There's such a thing as negative motion, that there really is some way that I can make something move and it's unenergy. It will consume energy out of the universe. It will consume heat out of the universe. That's not Descartes, that's not Galileo, and it's certainly not Newton. So fuck you, liars. And this will be shown more clearly when we get to experiments involving elastic collisions. What a pile of shit. Alright, the Dispar experiments, no doubt. Alright, fourth, he says momentum equals energy equals kinetic energy is a religious fable made by Leibniz. Well, that's exactly what it is. All right, he says momentum is energy, but here we go, just doing the same thing over and over again, right? Okay, but because he doesn't actually understand what the word momentum even, so this is just a waste of time. I mean, obviously, this is almost not worth reading. I mean, obviously, I know what it means, and obviously, I know MV. I know what a mass is, and I know what a velocity is, and so what the fuck are you talking about? And I know it's always positive. There's no intrinsically negative motion. All right, is energy. Energy and the absolute value of momentum are distinct concepts that no one in any scientific or engineering discipline confuses. Yeah, and you don't also show any evidence of 25 times the fuel to go 5 times as fast. And you don't explain how generators going twice as fast make 4 times the electricity. You don't do any of this shit. You don't defend any of your nonsensical axioms that you claim I must believe. I don't believe your interpretation of momentum. I don't believe there's any such thing as negative motion. God, you fucking idiots. They believe that nuclear bombs don't create any momentum, and they don't exchange any power or force. They don't make anything move. That's their theory, because it all canceled. Fuck, this is just such an inane conversation to have. You're so fucking pathetic. Oh, God. Yes, people just can't get eaten by aliens soon enough. To him, they are the same thing. Consequently, he doesn't think kinetic energy, blah, 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 blah. So why don't you stick with the Leibniz crap and just explain what the fuck proof Leibniz provided when he declared this silly crap to be the truth? What fucking piece of experimental evidence did he demonstrate it with, you moron? Oh, that's right, nothing. Describes the energy of a moving object. As he repeats billions of times, kinetic energy is a religious fable created by Leibniz. Well, where did you disprove that? Where did you show that Leibniz provided credible evidence? Where did you show that Deschartelets' experiment was brilliantly conceived? Where did you do any of that, you fucking lying sack of shit? All right. Oh, I saw this kryptonite thing a long time ago. This is an old post of some kind. Anyway, in short, his misunderstandings compound because he rejects, over and over again we have to do this, and conflates vectors and scalars. Well, again, yes, I conflate reason and nonsense. Yeah, okay. Every subsequent claim about momentum or energy collapses. So there's no collapse of anything. This is just such a waste of time. These arguments are vacuous. You are showing nothing. Okay. The problem for draft science is that basic collision experiments already disprove him. Yes, and I would say that ballistic pendulum experiments decidedly prove you wrong. Okay, for this, and levers and water and hydraulics and gears and everything you can think of prove you decisively wrong. For the sake of discussion, I will refer to whatever this is, slash some p, as Descartes' quantity, because it was originally proposed by Rene Descartes that some p, whatever that is always conserved. Yes, it's Descartes who said the energy is already in the universe, and that's it. The universe is hot. So he didn't say hot, but it's the same thing. He said the universe is hot. It's a certain temperature, and the temperature can't escape. So the universe just stays hot. The energy just goes from place to place to place to place. But so it swirls around and does stuff, but it never changes in terms of how hot it is. Okay, we refer to some vector p as momentum and some, what is this shit? What is all this crap? And so this other crap, he doesn't say anything about v squared, so that's definitely not Descartes. So he's just making shit up to say Descartes said anything about this v squared shit as kinetic energy. Without quibbling over how to define energy, we can simply ask which of the three quantities is conserved in which circumstance. So they're saying that different circumstances you conserve different things. It's just ludicrous that somehow 1 minute the universe is a momentum universe, and the next minute the universe is a kinetic energy universe. The clear fact is if you're moving something in space, it's a momentum universe. Absolute fact. You push something with a force in space, it goes twice as fast, it goes twice as far. Duh. All right. Descartes' quantity, momentum, or kinetic energy. So again, and the question is decidedly answered in Descartes' favor. The quantity always conserved its momentum. So you're never going to show an experiment where you destroy the momentum. You're never going to make more momentum, and you're never going to destroy the momentum. And that's where you people are the big fat fucking liars. Because you're never going to show where momentum ever gets a wrong answer. All right, take any collision, elastic or inelastic. Momentum will always get the right answer. All right, take any two hard spheres. Okay, one with mass m, another with mass 3m. Okay, and this. So you should have made it. Well, 3m will get you 150. Okay, both suspended on strings from pendular. Send m and a velocity v into stationary m3 and make free momentum. Okay, draft science predicts both will rebound in opposite directions at a speed v 1/4. Mainstream science predicts both will respond in the opposite direction at speed 1/2. Okay, here we can see YouTube disbar video. So again, I'm not going to bother with these videos. They're all crap. Okay, they're not good enough, and so fuck this bullshit. Show me a real scientist doing it. Show me real measurements. But, I mean, just the very fact that they claim it. So, again, I don't really want to go to the trouble to build this thing. But let's just understand. I'll just show you one more time what they're proposing and how easy it is to understand how it can't happen. It's just not possible that it could be true because it's crazy amounts of free energy. All right. So I can just make a pendulum, all right, and I can have a little rack of the 3 mass balls, okay, and so they're on a tiny slope, so they'll just feed into each other, right, at one after another. And so their theory is that I can put 100 in, and this 3 will leave with 150, 150% of the momentum. So I only have 100% here, right? And it's going to leave with 100% of the momentum, over 100%. So I'm going to have free momentum moving in that direction. So they're actually saying I could move something in space, I could hit a big object, and I can make the big object have more momentum than the little object had to start with. And let's see, in space, this would go the opposite direction. They'd say, well, this minuses that. Well, in this case, it's not going to be minused, because I'm going to get all the energy back here. Not all, but I'm going to get 50% of it back. So it's going to be going half the velocity. So I'm going to get half the velocity back to do it again. And so this one will go 150% of half the velocity, which will be 75%, right? And onward and onward. And then it's like 50%, I think, and then 25%. So anyway, so in total, I can get 200 or 300%, right? Maybe 300% of what I put in. So when I'm all done, I start with one object going this way with 100 momentums. I end up with another object going this way that has 300 momentums. And nothing was added. No added force put in. And they say that makes sense. So I have a heavy mass going, at the appropriate speed to have 3 times the momentum. So I put 100 in, I get 300 out. And they say that makes sense. And they say I couldn't have a lever over here, okay, to convert the slow, heavy object into a light, fast object again, and retain at least half of that momentum, right? So if I only lost half of this through the lever, so instead of 300, I'm back to 150. Well, it means now I have 150 momentums going this way for free. Okay, so I can just keep going back and forth, right? I start with 100. I have 150 coming back. That does the same thing, right, of increasing. And then I end up just sending the 200 this way, and then 300 this way, and then 350 this way, and then 400 that way. I mean, this is just such bullshit. It's obvious bullshit. I mean, this isn't a complex puzzle to solve. This isn't even a Rubik's Cube to understand this can't happen. You can't make free energy, free momentum in the same direction and pretend that because you shot something that way, something went the opposite way, that somehow you undid it. The undoing theory is ridiculous. Fuck. Alright, all results that the balls come out with speeds significantly closer to v square under 2 than v4, 1/4. What does this mean? We can check the math, Descartes' quantity before the collision. So again, this is all they have. So in all 350 years since Descartes, this is the best they can do, is these crappy dispar shit videos. This proves something. Okay. Then the videos are just that, crap. They're filmed crap. They're filmed at stupid angles. Some of the objects aren't even round when they hit each other. They don't hit each other evenly. They don't cycle, bang, 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 bang. They don't keep going. Lots of flaws of these experiments. All right, so after the collision is blah, 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 blah. Okay, which is greater than what the system started out with. So he's conceding, yes, it's more free momentum. This is devastating for draft science. No, it's devastating for physics. Free momentum is nonsense. Not only is Descartes' quantity not conserved, so he's saying momentum isn't conserved. Okay, I'm saying that even Professor Lewin says nature can finagle. No, nature can deal with kinetic energy one way or another, but nature can't finagle momentum. But you're saying it can. Okay, it is gained out. It is gained out of nowhere in the collision. So he's conceding that this is what he's saying. You can make free momentum. So no one can attribute the lack of conservation to some type of loss in the environment or some other form of energy. Well, what are you talking about there? We're talking about free energy. We're not talking about losing it somewhere. Momentum, on the other hand, before the collision is... So he's only going to do this minusing thing, right? We know it's not minused. We know the 50 goes back up and comes back down again. So it's not in the opposite direction. So understand, right? I mean, I drew this already, but you understand. The one mass hits, it's going back up into gravity, it's going to hit again. So that's the big lie, that somehow it's a minus, because it's going the same way. All I have to do is cut the string, and it's going exactly the same way as the 150. So I would end up with 150 in the big object and 100 in the little object. 50 in the little object. Oh, let me draw that because it's just so obvious. That's another way of just dissecting this crap as nonsense. It's unsustainable as logic. You can't do this to physics because it's illogical on its fucking face. So his claim is, so let's just say, okay, it was a pendulum. All right, I let the pendulum function. And I hit the object, and so you have the 3 mass going with 150. And the fact is I just let it go back up, and then when it's coming back down, I cut the string. Okay. And now you have 150 plus the little one going 50. 150. And so now you have a total of 200 momentum going this way. Nothing else. No negative momentum. So you started with 100 in, going this way, and now after the experiment, and all you did was cut a string, After the experiment, you got 200. How could that possibly make sense to anybody? This does work. I mean, let's just understand. This 50 will knock over pins. This 150 will knock over pins. This will do real work. So it's just ridiculous to say you haven't made free energy. All right, so there's no point in doing the math because he's just pretending that there's a this way. There's no that way. That way doesn't happen. There's no canceling motion. All right. So both momentum and kinetic energy are exactly the same. So obviously they're only exactly the same if you consider the momentum going this way as canceling some portion of the momentum this way. So he's arguing that the 150 going this way, 50 of it's canceled by the thing going this way. But with a pendulum, we know we're getting it all back. So the 50 is going to still be going this way. So there's not going to be any canceling 50. A clear counter-argument completely destroys this silly fucking argument. So, and again, he says only Descartes' quantity of motion is not conserved. So here, this is a good enough thing, right? Because here we're showing this disrespect for these guys 300 years ago in the dark, literally in the dark, who had a much better perception of reality than this asshole. And here he is talking shit about Descartes. Now, Descartes was wrong. I mean, he was an etherist and all that kind of stuff. He had lots of wrong ideas, but I'm just saying he was the guy who just first made this point that the universe doesn't need it doesn't need a God. It doesn't need anybody to play with it because the energy's always in it and it's always just transferring. It's just going from here and then it goes there and then it goes over there and then it goes over there because it's all heat. And you can have heat in one direction or you can have heat in all kinds of directions, but it's just motion of mass. You can have a big mass moving, or you can have little tiny masses moving very fast, and it's all the same thing. It's just masses moving velocities, and it's all that's in the universe. And it's disgusting that this ragged piece of shit would talk all this tripey crap, and he didn't really produce anything called evidence. Nothing compiled by physicists. Okay, no real evidence by a physicist, a scientist, nothing, zero. Not one of those links will be to an actual science experiment. Just a motivated crank. yeah, that's the only experiments they have, motivated cranks. All right, so that's enough of that. So, I guess I'll take a break. Well, maybe I'll hit the button and just say, yeah, maybe I'll come back later. I guess I could hit the button and see if there's anything else in the subject here. All right, let me see if he has any other comments. I mean, he is bored here. I might as well see if he has any other shit to say. No. Be the first to comment. Isn't that weird? So this was the post. Okay. So it's on his channel as a post. How come I can't see his other posts? That is weird. Okay, so I clicked on it. That's why. All right, so I go back. All right. And so let's see. So he's only posted to the other shit, the place where they dox me and do all that kind of crap. And so he posted there with some other pile of shit. Let's see. Anyone who comes across... No, that's the post. That's where he posted it. Very strange. I don't know why it's not still there. But it's not. 9 days ago. I don't know. Anyway, let's go back to comments. Let's see. So this is the one where he doesn't understand a hose, how a garden hose works. Okay. And let's see. Diaz claimed that the lever is two equal weights on opposite sides. Yes. So I mean, to dispute the fact that a one mass at two distances weighs the same as a two mass at one distance, and that you could feel that on the other side of the lever, that they both have exactly the same weight. Now they're arguing that the same weight will move somehow at different speed. Even though it's the same weight, it'll move at different speed. That's too ridiculous. All right, let's see. Simple rocket experiment proving momentum is real energy. Let's see. It's insane, isn't it? Whoever this guy will use appeal to physicists when it's convenient while getting everything they say wrong, and then in the same thread say they are all wrong anyway. So we don't have any specific example of that. He can't even be consistent in his own worldview, which basically makes this entire discussion pointless. So this is the guy, again, who doesn't understand how a garden hose works. So again, not a physics argument, right? These guys just complaining that the conversation isn't going your way. And that's all you're doing. You're complaining because you're losing the argument. Okay, so says, clearly voltage is understood as pressure between electrons. I think most physicists understand that the pressure is created by some kind of photonic energy moving at the speed of light between the electrons. So that seems a very fair thing to say, right? That's not too bold. Obviously, physicists have to account for the fact that electrons hate each other, and they have to hate each other based on some sort of pressure that exists between them. I mean, whether you call the pressure hobgoblin goo or force bits, what's the difference? You have to recognize there's something between the electrons that gets higher pressure the closer they get to each other. Why are you appealing to a physicist if you think they're all wrong? Are you just making things up? See, you can't get anywhere near the subject. So anyway, go ahead. Go now and disagree with them and contradict your own appeal to authority. So again, what's the point? What an asshole. So I should see what he says on these other subjects, right? So let's see. Bad mathematics. Oh, there's somebody who has a channel, Bad Mathematics. That's cool. The subtle lesson: before you even begin manipulating anything, you need to show the existence of that thing. Obviously, you can legitimately run into contradictions. Yes, you need to show me that at 4 pounds dropped 1 foot is the same energy, the same heat, the same impact force as 1 pound dropped 4 feet. But you won't do that because you're lying scum. Let's see. You can't find any niche or strangely delightful. The algorithm just serves big channels and content you've already seen. I can attest to that. Yes, okay, so you know the system sucks, but you don't do anything to fix it. Alright, do magnets fall faster than non-magnets? Well, you would think they would probably have to a little bit faster, because yes, they have more than just gravity affecting them. But if magnetism is actually made out of the same force that creates gravity, well, then it can't manifest any extra energy. So that would be a good test. Anyway, enough of this. Yeah, okay, so we'll just take a break and see you later and such. Well, we can just go here. I don't think I should just bookmark the 5 people that post. I just should bookmark theirs. See, but that's the problem. They don't all make it public. So yeah, that's the downside. So you can't see everything they've posted. Disappointing. Alright, so we'll just do one here. Okay, let's see. Momentum won't be conserved, at least not how you're thinking of it. So this is physicist Andy again. So he made 2 comments here. 1 sentence do didn't say a goddamn thing. Alright, so Brutal Cycle said, do people really need to be told do not spam irrelevant messages, pictures, docs, and send harassing messages? If you aren't going to argue with what's on the post, just don't bother. Okay, yeah, exactly. Anyway, momentum won't be conserved, at least not how you're thinking about it. So again, this is just so silly. I'm thinking about it as a quantity, mv. You can easily measure the mv. I mean, how does he rationalize saying this? Momentum won't be conserved, at least not how you're thinking about it. Yeah, amazing. When obviously it will be. I mean, the half amount of water going twice as fast is going to be the same amount of momentum as the full amount of water going half the speed. I mean, half the water going twice as fast will be the same as 2 piles of water going 1 v. So again, that's just such horseshit. The problem is the kinetic energy won't be conserved. I mean, you people are just... there's almost no point in making these arguments, but people are so stupid. Well, we'll see. Maybe something will happen eventually. I did email Super Dave, and let's see. So we'll see if we get any reply. See if I can find that. Yeah, so I called it, I titled it, no harm asking. So I sent him an email. No harm asking, physics debunked. I would very much appreciate the challenge of you debunking my view of physics as a silly science. Debunking my view of physics as a silly science. Unlike the low-hanging fruit you usually pick on, I am willing to pay you a reasonable fee to pick apart my BS. These brief Reddit posts focus on kinetic energy, make for a good starting point. And so I gave him a link to the Reddit. If you're willing, let me know what kind of compensation you would require to make a public response. Draft Science on YouTube. So let's see. Can't hurt. But I mean, I've emailed these people, some of them a dozen times, and once a year, and you just can't get them to. Care about the subject. That's the simple truth. I emailed the Huygens guy, didn't get any reply from him either. So but whatever. I can only do my part. I can't make the world fair. And that's just a sad truth. Alright, and back. Some more stuff here. Let's see. So again, somebody's ragging about the post that I just spent an hour, responding to. But anyway, and again, he's asked, just post it somewhere under one of the other subjects. I mean, these are all subjects, you can find a place where it's relevant and post it as a comment. You're debunking what the purpose of this Reddit is. This Reddit, you're off the subject. If you think the subject is, I'm going to try to debunk Gary. That's not what the subject is here. There's a board for you to go do that, if that's your interest. But it's not the subject here. Anyway, and there's no reason that it won't be responded to. It's just that you ought to be polite and recognize that we're not doing this for you to, poop in here. It's, this is an organized thing, and you're just making a mess out of it. You're disrupting it, by being a little arrogant and rude to think you're important enough. Yeah, no, you're not. All right, anyway. So then this physicist Andy, again, he doesn't make any physics arguments. So he's a physicist that can't make a physics argument. So he says, why don't you make that a rule, or what is Gary telling you? So he is making it a rule. I mean, that's the whole point is, yeah, okay, we'll make it a rule. I mean, if you don't get the idea here, then I guess, we'll have to spell it out for you. Yeah. All right. Do people really need to be told? Yeah, exactly. Do not spam irrelevant messages, pictures, docs, or send harassing messages. If you aren't going to argue with what's on the post, just don't bother. And then he says, sounds like you just want to micromanage where the conversation goes. Exactly. Yeah, this is our conversation. We're organizing it, and we don't want a bunch of distractions by a bunch of fucktards talking about shit that's irrelevant. Like I said, the first three paragraphs were just some stupid rag about my psychology. Do you think that's fair? You really think that's an appropriate physics fucking argument? No, it's fucking waste of time, especially when this fucking lousy putz just like you, physicist Andy, is a coward. He doesn't make any YouTube videos. He doesn't do a damn thing. So why don't you give me an opportunity to harass you in your comment section? Why don't you give me the opportunity to fuck with you, bastard, you stupid little hypocrite? God, you're such a weasel. You put up nothing. You show nothing. Show me your fucking papers that you fucking publish somewhere. You fucking weasel. Link to one of these papers. Ugh. This pretentious fake fuck. So he says right there, momentum won't be conserved, at least not how you think of it. There's nothing to think of here, right? We just have a pressurized system, so I could just do that, right? I'll elaborate, okay? It's because unfortunately, these morons need you to go through all the ABCs, of physics. But the idea is, you're just changing a vessel. You're just basically saying there's three things I can do here. Okay, I have a piece of momentum in a box, and I can let the pieces out. Okay, I gotta use the other pen. have them trapped in a box. Let's just say we have a box of energy, little things with arrows, and they're bouncing around in there, and they're trapped in the box, okay, in the pressurized vessel. And all I'm saying is I'm going to let those out. Okay, they all come out the same speed. Okay, and I can change the frequency with which they come out. And obviously, if I let two out, well, then you're going to get two hunks of equal and opposite motion. You're going to get two hunks of an increase in your velocity, right? And such. So that's sensible. And then there's another box, okay, that has ones that are going twice as fast in it. So I can regulate how fast they come out, and I can also regulate by having ones that are twice as fast. All right, they have twice the momentum. And what would happen if I connected these two pressures between these two? So if I put a little cylinder in here and a little cylinder in here, the obvious fact is that, to equalize the pressures, to keep these going twice as fast, it'd have to be in half the amount of space. So this vessel would have to be half the size, okay, as this vessel, for these to be twice as fast, and then the pressure would be equalized, right? So that's all equal. So it just proves that, yes, it's the same momentum. So one going twice as fast is the same momentum as two going half that speed. And that's proven by hydraulics all the time. So there's no issue here. Every one of the circumstances I described is the same energy, and so you have to defend the fact that somehow I had to use more energy, okay, to make it go twice as fast, and there's no evidence I had to use any more energy. Yeah, so you're just, but go ahead. I mean, all you people do is evade the subject and evade these arguments. So there's not much I can do about that. Not anything I can do about it, apparently, because you're all unaccountable cowards. You don't do this. You don't expand on anything and allow me to understand how you can make these silly arguments, what you have in your head as a concept. Anyway, so this fit independent, whatever the fuck that means. Here goes with a completely intuitive explanation, to me at least, at why to achieve twice the velocity would require much more than twice the input energy. Well, again, your argument is 4 times, so let's just play with that with the rules. And it's 9 times to go 3 times as fast. So to have 3 times the pressure, I have to somehow put in 9 times the energy, but there's no evidence I have to do that. But anyway, a man pushes a mass horizontally along the road. Okay, well, I presume it's on a sled or wheels or ice or something with no friction. We do have a comment, kind of very infrequent. But anyway, so somebody, whatever this is, Descartes, Inferno or something. Anyway, torque and thrust. So I don't think the two things should really be talked about as if they're somehow the same thing. They're really different things. Is a conversation about momentum because of quantity of atoms. So that's kind of a bizarre interpretation, frankly. I mean, it's not just about the quantity. It's obviously just it's a conversation about momentum because everything is a conversation about momentum. So do you think there's some conversation you can have about motion in the universe that isn't a conversation about momentum? Everything that moves and is relevant in some way, that is, everything that can interact in any way, has to have MV. So it doesn't matter how big it is. You can have a little tiny thing, electron, with MV, or you can have a whole atom with MV, or you can have a gigantic molecules with MV, or you can have a gigantic person with MV. So you can just put the MV with more and more electrons and protons. To even say it's about atoms is sort of wrong, because the electrons and the protons are the things that actually have to move. They're the things that have to move first. So everything has to be converted into motion of electrons and protons would be the simple argument. That's when two things hit each other. It's electrons pushing on electrons. So everything has to be converted into the force that moves electrons. That's the most discrete force in the universe, is the force that moves electrons. And then you could argue that everything else is just a collection of that force in, say, one direction this way, or it could be heat, and that means it could be in all kinds of directions. So it's just a conversion of the momentum from one object to another object, and the conversion at the true level of the universe is always just a force conversion. It's just electron pressure. So ultimately, when anything hits something else, it's going to be electrons converting, exchanging momentum with electrons. Now, obviously, you could hit something like you could throw a gamma ray into an atom and you could blow the shit out of it. You could break it. So, but that's the force that moves electrons and protons. So it just has to be understood that, yes, you can have the force in a raw form, and so it isn't being carried. There's no electron carrying it. So photons are a force without a carrier. Yeah, that's a good enough way to say it. All right, let's see if you have something. You need to elaborate on your point. Torque and thrust, again, like I said, they're not really the same thing. It's a conversation about momentum, when I would argue that weight is a conversation about momentum. I'd argue that heat is a conversation about momentum. Everything is a conversation about momentum, because momentum is all the universe is doing. It's just momentums interacting with momentums. And there's no kinetic energies anywhere. All right, anyway. Stand still to a certain velocity. Our man, well, again, it's, you're not really getting it. Then the experiment's sort of over. He gets it to a velocity and it'll go that velocity. And so how much work did he do to accelerate it to that velocity is the argument. And you're claiming to go twice the velocity, he has to put in twice as much gas. 4 times as much gas, and he doesn't. He just has to put in twice as much. All right, our man has expended a certain amount of energy, but as he continues to double that velocity, the second phase, does he expend only the same amount of energy? Well, there was 1 unit and then 2 units, and that's how much energy you're going to expend, yes. Obviously, we're limited in terms of how fast we can go at all. So, it's a pretty poor pusher we are by design. So the fact that we start heating up and everything starts to break down if we go any faster has nothing to do with this argument about how much energy it took to accomplish the task. If I use some other device to produce the energy, like a pressurized vessel or something else that doesn't have bad joints. Anyway, no, it must be more. Then add in force he uses to push the mass and also has increased. Otherwise, he could not accelerate. So again, you're saying twice the weight is somehow 4 times the weight. So I've done this so many times, explain how you can't have this theory that somehow the second amount of pressure somehow requires more energy. You can't win this argument. I shouldn't have to do this hundreds of times, but frankly, if I put a battery on here and it weighs 1 unit of mass, right? Let's just say it's 1 unit of mass. And I do exactly the same act and I put a second battery on, it's now going to weigh twice as much. All right? That's just a fact. It's going to weigh twice as much. Now, your argument, somehow that's 4 times the energy, would be kind of ludicrous, because obviously this and this was exactly the same motion. The same exact lifting created both impressions. The weight can't be 1 unit of weight when I put the first one on, and it can't equal 3 units of weight when I put the second one on. That can't be 3 units of anything. It's not 3 units of energy. All right, so obviously it's the same energy because it's exactly the same motion, exactly the same gravitational force that's going to be hitting the 2 batteries. So obviously twice the pressure is exactly that, twice. It just takes twice the energy to produce it, twice the motion to produce it. All right, anyway. So where was I? No, he must be more. Then add in force he uses to push the mass and also has increased. Otherwise, he could not accelerate. So says you. As long as you keep this moderately slow, it's pretty easy to double your force. Twice the energy for himself to move at double the speed and twice more the force, whatever that even could mean. That's 4 times the energy expended, says you with no evidence at all. So again, you keep saying it takes 4 times the energy. So you really are saying to me that go 20 miles an hour, I have to use 4 times the energy I use to go 10 miles an hour. Do you really think that's true? Do you really think the difference between 10 miles an hour and 30 miles an hour, I'm going to use 9 times the energy? That's what you're arguing. I need to put 9 times the amount of gasoline in to go 3 times as fast. Is that really going to be, is that what really going to stand by that argument? Take this stupid human pushing bullshit out of it. You're telling me you have to put in 9 times the gas to go 3 times as fast. Then I have to put in 16 times the gas to go 4 times as fast. And then I have to put 25 times the gasoline in to go 5 times as fast. You think that's true? Shit. Anyway. Also, you're really off the subject of the experiment, frankly. Also, the criticism of Ian Gosling's lever experiment is invalid. No, it's not. Because it's a simple truth that there's a place on the lever where the levers will move the same, right? There's a place you could put that bob where they're going to move exactly the same speed. Because if you move it in, it's going to go slower. All right. Yeah, so whatever this guy is, he's just talking absolute shit now. So I figure that's worth a sort of a laugh because it's just absolute shit. Incomprehensibly unconnected to anything reasonable. So it's just unfortunate that people do this. So again, let's just read this in a row, right? Torque and thrust is a conversation about momentum because of the quantity of atoms. One must acquire more expansion of explosive combustibility. There is fuel for the flint that is carbon and burns very slowly, while combustion responsibility is defined through torque in rates per minute and horsepower braking. How a rocket ship and a normal fan are comparable through relationship with torque instead of, yes, you're just way too. Just go somewhere else, please. Thank you. Yes, no, you're just not going to, it's not going to work here, fella. So I'll give you a day off, but really don't come back. Waste of time. Anyway, disappointing. But yes, so much of it is just absolute people with shitty intentions and then people with just shitty brains. Oof. Anyway, it's all about all there are. People with shitty intentions they're just a little bit too fucking crazy. Way too much of that going on. Alright, so where the hell? Oh, it's up here. Okay. Back to the story so far. Move it in. No, it's going to go faster. So if I move it in, the lever's going to move faster. If I move it out, it's going to go slower. So we know there's a place where it's going to go the same fucking speed. So all he did was not find that place. So if he finds that place, I'm betting you, okay, a tremendous amount of money, whatever you want it to be, that place is not going to be 4 inches away. That place is going to be like 4 millimeters away. All right, anyway. Invalid. For the half mass to achieve the same velocity as the one mass, it would not have to be its length from the pivot. So Archimedes was wrong. So he's saying Archimedes didn't know what he was talking about, and for 2,000 years people didn't know what a lever was. I mean, this is just such garbage. The law of the lever demands conservation of momentum because the distance is proportional to the velocity, for fuck's sake. You can't change that. Alright, should be back. Alright, so also the criticism by Gaussian lever experiment was invalid. For the half mass to achieve the same velocity as the one mass, it would not have its length from the pivot shortened by a mere ½ inch or so. It would have to have its length reduced by at least a half, whatever a half is. So again, that's your claim. I'm saying you don't have any evidence of that. And I'm just saying that's the experiment you got to do, right? Does it sound that difficult to do that experiment? No, it doesn't sound very hard. I'm saying I've already done it in the sense that I've had a balanced lever, and guess what? Okay, the one mass isn't, 1.7. Okay, no, it's clearly all the way 4 units of distance. So you can make up your story about how levers work, but they're just stories until you actually show me. Oh, they're really bad stories, frankly. All right, so that's all we get from this so far. So yeah, nothing on the subject really that explains the problem that moving things in space, kinetic energy just doesn't work. It doesn't make any sense. Nothing obeys your laws. Okay, and even the even the simplest one where you use this distance argument and say distance has something to do with it, when you know that twice the velocity is only twice the distance traveled. Now, obviously, I would make the argument that you're not testing how much energy something has when it's flying through space and not having its energy stolen from it. But obviously, I can always just do the rolling ball example and the thin ice example. So again, we'll have to go back to those arguments because those are decisive proofs. I mean, they're decisive in the sense that you have to concede that friction is a product of the amount of gravity, pressure, the weight you're collecting, and you place less weight on a surface the faster you go across it, just like the more surface area is less pressure. So we all know this. Guys can lie on bed of nails and all kinds of things you can do, just tricking gravity. All right, so that was crap, unfortunately. See if there's anything else here. 7. I don't think 7. No. 10. Don't know. 10. I don't remember. Well, I can always hit the button, right? Okay. Yeah, I'll pause and I'll see if there's anything here. All right, sure, I have a little time. So this is an interesting subject, actually. I was thinking some more about this Bernoulli and stuff, and I was remembering that Bernoulli did correspond with Newton, but they never talked to each other directly much. They just sort of pwned each other at a distance, with competing ideas. And so Bernoulli's kind of famous for saying something like, I recognize the claws of the lion or something like that, because Newton had answered one of Bernoulli's questions under an anonymous name, and he figured out that it was Newton who was actually answering the question and that kind of thing. Anyway, so they poked at each other as intellectuals. But anyway, and yes, Bernoulli talked some about, you could argue, mv squared, but I don't think it was anything like the context of Leibnizian believing it's the only quantity conserved. So it wasn't nothing like that. And it was always Euler who, filled with Bernoulli's equations and turned them into kinetic energy equations. So the interesting part is that, yes, if you drain this tank using the half volume of water, you will conserve more water, right? So you'll have more water left over. So you're creating the same momentum, but you're only using half the water. So that's a huge advantage, right? But it's also half the momentum, so it works both ways. You get free momentum too. So if you think the volume of water means you have conserved, it is in fact. But this is the argument I've been making. I've been trying to get people to recognize, because it's really interesting. But this whole speed argument, so the simple argument, if I lift something slowly, I do more work. The same is true for dropping it. If I drop it slowly, I get more work out of it because it's in the gravity longer. And so that's the interesting fact, right? So if we thought of the water tank as just water molecules, right? You could say, okay, they have the same energy, whether they're up here in the tank being suspended, right? So the tank is really, the pressure would be, I might as well draw that. The tank has supports, okay, and the energy is going into the ground. So all the gravity that's in the water, hitting the water, is ending up in the ground. And now when we're going to let the water out, right, if I let it out with a big giant hole, the water leaves and it's gone in, 1 second, let's say. So it all falls out in 1 second. So all I have is the mass times the velocity of the water, which won't be very fast because it's only going to fall for 1 second, so it's only going to be 9.8. So it's not going to be a tremendous amount of energy. But if I let the water out slowly, the fact is it'll do more work because the water molecules will be in the gravity longer. So instead of falling this fast, they'll fall much slower, which means they collected all this extra gravity of falling slower. So you can understand. So I've used the example. If I rolled the ball down a ramp versus just dropping it. So if I drop it, yeah, I got the higher velocity, but wait a minute, it's not a higher velocity, right? This will achieve the same velocity when it's end here. So when this one's finished rolling, it's going to have the same velocity this one had hitting. So I'm going to have the same velocity because it was the same height. I'm going to get the same velocity. Now, it really won't be the same velocity because obviously if I put the weight on the outside of the ball, it'll roll with more angular momentum. So I have to recognize that if I have a ring, it's going to roll at a different speed than if I have a little ball, because the angular momentum, the stored momentum in the rotation will be different. So the rotational momentum has to be subtracted from the velocity, because the velocity will be a little slower for an object where you have more angular rotation in it. So it does get a little complicated. But the absolute fact is, as you can understand, is when this falls, all it can do is create heat here. There's a certain number of degrees of heat, right? And it's all about heat when you think about it. And the fact is you're going to have more heat here, right? This ground is going to get hot, okay, this whole surface. And then you're still going to have the same impact energy. So you have the same impact energy, so you have the same heat at the end, but you made all of this extra heat in the process. So you have to consider that, yes, by dropping it slower, it's in the gravity longer, it actually is collecting more gravitational potential energy. Now the real trick is, like I said before, is that all of these, it's these individual molecules, and the fact is whether they're on the earth or they're in the tank, they're always applying the same pressure. So they always have the same energy. So they have the same energy here as they have on the surface of the earth, because it's the same gravitational force. So you can't change how much gravitational force they're applying from just existing. And all you're saying is that I get a little bit of extra because I'm going to let them be in the gravity longer, okay, by traveling from here to here. And if I make that trip longer, I'll be in gravity longer, applying heat. But the catch is you're applying the heat here instead of applying it to the ground. So yes, the ramp's getting hot, but the ground's not. You know, that kind of argument. So in a way, it doesn't make any difference. But it is an interesting subject, that the fact that if lifting something slowly is more work, the idea that dropping something, that is stopping it from falling, slowing it down, makes more work, does more work. So you're better off dropping something slowly and to gain energy from it than dropping something quickly to get more energy out of it, because you want it to be free falling you want it to fall as slow as possible. The slower it falls, the more time it's in the gravity, the more energy it's collecting while it's going, before it hits. So if you can force it to move slower, it's actually more energy. The fall has more energy in it. I don't know how to say that as a heat number, though. Boy, that's interesting. What the hell is this thing moving around for? I have no idea. Anyway, pause and such. It just makes the subject a little bit more complicated, but it doesn't change the fact that, again, if you're creating the water pressure instead of water volume, so if you're pumping to keep water pressure at, say, 60 pounds, it doesn't matter whether you have the hose half open or half closed. You'll have to put in the same pressure, because the same pressure is making half the water go twice as fast as one volume of water going the same speed. So it's using the same amount of pressure. So it's only the tank argument where you get into some weirdness where you're better off draining the tank slowly than quickly. Kind of funny. I guess I hit the button at the wrong time again. So let's see if there's a place where I'm actually talking here. Now I'm disappearing. And so, yeah, I guess I turned the video on the wrong times. So whatever else I talked about, you'll have to just, we just have to make that part up. I don't think there was much. But anyway. So, yeah, we can get rid of that. And so I was just watching a Bruce Yearney video again and thinking about the rubber band bullshit. And 2 rubber bands and all that. But Bruce does, damn it, do that experiment. I just dropped my experiment. Yeah. Well, I'll find it someday. So let's see if I can load the video here. And but anyways, this sliding block. So you just take some rubber bands, tie them together, put them between 2 blocks, and just prove the point. So I guess I might as well draw that first. Is that the video he did shows a lot of this stuff, and it's pretty good. I mean, in terms of you can see most of it. It's not measured very well. There's no accurate clinical measurement done, which is disappointing. But there's simple arguments like. If you have 2 blocks between the same rubber band, and one of them is a 1 mass and one of them is a 2 mass, the 1 mass will be moving twice, okay, the velocity of the 2 mass. So that all works out momentum-wise. The distance is right, the velocities are right. And when they hit each other, okay, there's no evidence that this object going twice as fast, the 1 mass that has the higher kinetic energy, that is, this has twice the kinetic energy, it doesn't win the collision. I mean, you do it with 3 times the kinetic energy, and then 4 times, then 5 times the kinetic energy. And the fact is the thing with the higher kinetic energy never wins the collision. That is, it never pushes the collision in its direction. It's always an even collision. It always stays right where the impact is, because the fact is the 2 things hitting each other have the same momentum, and momentum is the only thing being transferred. Now, he also does this experiment where he just pushes the same carts, okay, with 2 rubber bands and one with 1 rubber band. So he has one with a 1 rubber band and one with 2 rubber bands. All right, and it's pretty decisive in the sense that it's clearly more than 0.4 faster. All right, the 2 rubber band basically, hits the side twice as fast as the 1 rubber band. So again, it's just providing evidence that these rubber band experiments produced by Dispar might be actually in some substantial way flawed. And it's the same thing for Valerie Rousseau, okay, claiming that 2 rubber bands can't produce twice the force. And that's all you're saying is it should be twice the force. That means 2 rubber bands doing the same thing. They should be able to apply twice the force. And maybe it's just about how much you stretch them, how much energy they have in them. Maybe just doing this much isn't enough, because they're a little sloppy in the beginning, and then they get better and better. The tighter you make them, the more energy you get into them, blah, 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 something like that. But you can feel a little bit of that. When you first work on a rubber band, it's just kind of, And so it's really hard to feel that, that's twice as much work. Well, it's pretty hard to tell. But once you push them out to more distance, it gets more and more obvious the difference between 1 rubber band and 2 rubber bands. But anyway, and I'm not saying that Dispar didn't do that. It seemed like he was putting quite a bit of energy in, but he was doing the rubber bands this way, okay, this way, instead of this way. Okay, so that's the difference. Bruce Yearney's just tying them this way and letting them crash into each other. And I mean, the very fact that, if I put 2 1-mass blocks between the rubber band, they're going to crash at a certain velocity. And it seems, the experiment that's missing is just to put 2 rubber bands between the 2 1-mass blocks and see if they move twice as fast. But again, that experiment is done against the brick wall, the non-movable object. So the simple argument that I've made is that if I have 2 blocks moving, they're going to go half the speed that 1 block will go to the wall, because the wall isn't going to use up any energy. It's not going to absorb any energy. So all the energy will be absorbed by the 1 block, because all the rubber band is going to push in one direction. All of the spring energy has to be in the one direction, because that's the only direction that's yielding. If something doesn't yield, it can't absorb energy. Just that kind of simple argument. That's why you can suspend something. I mean, if I pulled the rubber band against a wall that didn't yield, obviously the ball's not yielding. It's not moving, so I'm keeping all this energy. There's nothing's yielding. Something has to yield for the energy to go, to disappear. Can't disappear if something doesn't move. It has to yield. Yeah, so that's a good enough argument for that. So we just show that a little bit of that, just because I'll try to convert it into a smaller clip than the whole video, and you know, in that way, you know, make it more direct to the point. So it should be here somewhere. I don't see it though. Okay, let's see if I can find it. Yeah, do that, then do this, and then put it up here. It should be right here. Yeah, I don't know why it's not showing up. Let's see. New site, Newton's Law. There it is. Okay, so this is the, you know, the most obvious one. Okay, so one rubber band against two rubber bands, and this was really decisive in the sense of obviously the one rubber band won big time. I mean, the two rubber bands won big time. So I think this is also the same experiment. So let me go back a little further. Yeah, okay. So the back one has two rubber bands. All right, can you see that? Yeah, you can see that fine. So the one in the back has two rubber bands. And you can see that it's clearly going, I think, obviously more than 0.4 faster. So it hits, and okay, so, you know, this is a little bit more than 1/2 the distance, but it certainly looks like a lot more than 0.4. And then obviously this experiment, the other view, gives you a better look at it. But it just doesn't look like, you know, especially at the rebound. Look how much rebound the back one has. I mean, clearly, substantially more velocity. You know, it's just, but unfortunately, like I said, there is no measurement. So here it is again. Now the one in the foreground, the one closer to you, has the two rubber bands. The one further away has the one rubber band. And like I say, it doesn't let go of these at the same time. It's not perfect. But I'm just saying, it certainly doesn't look like 0.4 difference. And we certainly don't have 4 rubber bands. I mean, I don't even want to imagine 4 rubber bands in the sense that it just, there's no way it's going to go, you know, just 2 times faster. So let's see if we can stop it pretty close to when they're launched. Yeah, there, well, yeah, I missed. But anyway, so it's already going faster. It's going to hit a lot faster. This is going to be way short of, you know, it's going to be less than halfway, frankly. So this is obviously going at least twice as fast. I mean, it's, you know, it wins by a long margin, and the ruler even moved. But anyway, so yeah, a lot faster. So these experiments just, you know, they do provide, like I said, it's not perfect. You know, here's a duplicate of it. You know, I'm not arguing that it's a good enough experiment. We should do better. But I'm just saying, as an argument, you got to say, okay, they were released pretty much the same time, and it doesn't look like it's even a close race, right? I mean, this is almost hitting, right? Okay, right there. And this is only halfway. So, I mean, it's clearly this is twice as fast. So to say that's only 0.4 faster, I would argue that's a ridiculous statement to say that somehow it was only going 0.4 faster. It's pretty obvious it's going twice as fast. So the whole point is that, you know, you can find these experiments. None of these experiments are good enough. You know, it's just that, you know, the fact that people don't want anything better than this. They just want to leave this conflicting rubbish as what physics is supposed to be, as conflicting rubbish as theory. You know, that we're not supposed to expect something better than experiments that really just aren't good enough. I mean, it's not Bruce Unity's fault. I mean, he's just doing a grammar school crap here. Well, it might be high school, but, well, anyway. So, you know, it's not his job. But it's just amazing that this is there's so few of this being done. And the fact is people are saying, oh, Gary, you ought to do it too. So I ought to do the same rickety shit experiment. So we shouldn't have somebody with high-speed cameras do these experiments, right? And with clinical tested rubber bands that are actually equal amounts of force and all of that stuff. We shouldn't do it right. We should just do it this way, kind of sloppy. And that should be the definition of science. I'm just saying, you're just so full of shit if you think that's a good idea. You're not a science defender if you think that's what people should be arguing for, is more, I hate to call it sloppy. This is not sloppy, but it's just they're weak experiments. They're not strong experiments. It's not rigorous enough, if I can use that word. Yeah, it's not rigorous enough as science. So anyway, that'll probably be the subject, sometime in the future. Yeah, just because it is pretty good evidence. I mean, and the whole video has a bunch of different ones that are all demonstrating the fact. Like I said, I can just play these end clips where, so these are the experiments with 1 block against 2 blocks. And you can see that in every single case, the thing with more kinetic energy doesn't win the collision. So this is a 1 block against a 1 block, and obviously they're going to hit right in the middle because both blocks get the same velocity. And if he uses a 2 mass block against a 1 mass block, then one of them will move at half the speed and the other one will move at twice the speed. These are all really already understood concepts. So obviously the collision will happen right in the middle because they both move the same speed and they both bounce off of each other the same amount, and it's pretty much obvious that nobody won the collision. And the thing that'll be obvious is that even when their velocities substantially change, and now their kinetic energies will be substantially changed, it still comes out as a nobody wins the collision. So here you have the example of the 1 against the 2 mass. Obviously the collision is going to not happen in the center now. It's going to happen somewhere around here, because the 1 block will be going twice as fast. And so it's going to happen 2/3 down the track because it's going twice as fast. And when they hit, the object, the 1 mass, has twice the kinetic energy. So the block with the single block has twice the velocity, and that means it ends up with twice the kinetic energy. But it's not going to win the collision. There's not going to be any evidence that it has twice the kinetic energy. It's not going to win. And it should win if it has something called more energy. So there's no evidence that it won the collision at all. The collision happened at one point. It wasn't pushed in the direction of the thing with twice the energy. I mean, you can clearly see it didn't get pushed forward. It didn't get pushed in the direction of twice the energy. The collision happens here, and that's just it. That's the end of the collision. There's nothing else happening. It's right here. It all stays right there. This block does not push. It has twice the kinetic energy, and it didn't win. Now it's going to have 3 times the kinetic energy, and it's still not going to win. And then it's going to have 4 times the kinetic energy, and it's still not going to win. I mean, I'm just saying, what's the point of saying that this kinetic energy is energy if it can't win a collision? So the 1 block has now got 4 times the energy. It's moving 4 times the velocity. It hits, and boom, nothing. No indication of it going forward because it has 4 times the energy. It doesn't win the collision. The thing with 4 times the energy should win. It shouldn't be a stalemate. If you're going to say something has 4 times the energy, it should win the tug of war. Well, this is essentially a tug of war. It's proving the case. All right, so that was the 4 mass, I think. So this is more about blocks moving on different surfaces, so this wasn't nearly as interesting. And let's see if there's anything else in here. So here's some blocks with wheels. This wasn't too much. This just shows, you know. So you have a 3 mass and a 1 mass. Obviously, the 1 mass is going to go 3 times faster, blah, 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 blah. Same number of rubber bands. So, yes, yeah, it's a no-brainer, so to speak. And it's still a fact, okay, that the 1 mass has 3 times the kinetic energy. Now, in this case, it has 4 times the kinetic energy. Now, does it look like it has 4 times the kinetic energy? No, not really. I mean, this is going to be a pretty radical collision here. It's going to be a lot of movement happening, blah, blah, blah. So there's no evidence that one of them had a tremendous, 4 times the energy. There's no real evidence indicating that was true. Let's see what else there is here. All right, so we're back to, banging them into each other again. So this is another version of the same thing before, except, it had wheels and now it doesn't have wheels. So that's weird. All right, so this is with wheels and then without wheels. But again, the collision happens, no movement, I mean, it's, this is wheels again. All right, so this is going 3 times as fast. It's going to be a collision. This has 3 times the kinetic energy. Did it move at all? Did it gain any motion against the thing that's 3 times weaker? 3 times less energy. It hits something with 3 times less energy. So you're going to tell me the kinetic energy is real, and yet it can't win a tug of war. It can't win a collision. So, and this is the 4 with no wheels. And, it's just going to be a decisive, stalemate. So it's nothing with 4 times the kinetic energy. No, didn't win. The collision just stayed right here. Just saying. So this is with wheels and 4. So again, you can really see that it's 4 times, which is much faster there. But the collision didn't go forward. Saying over and over again, Gary. That's all you can do is just try to explain to people. Well, it's just clear. It doesn't happen. Didn't win. 4 times the energy. Didn't win the collision. 4 times the energy. Didn't win the collision. 4 times the energy. Didn't win the collision. Let's see what we got. I think these are the boxes now. Yeah, the boxes aren't nearly as interesting. All right, so that's just another version of the same thing. And then we have these boxes. So the boxes weren't too interesting. Okay, but you could put things in the boxes and you can make the weight different and all that kind of crap, but it wasn't very interesting. And this stuff isn't this, the fact that now you don't have the thing stuck on it, so now it's going to gain the velocity and then it's going to fly off. So he's got a holder to keep it so it does get the forward motion, but it's just a launcher essentially. So that's probably another experiment he could do where he could prove the velocities by shooting objects, but I don't know what, the friction's going to mess up that, so there wouldn't be much point. So anyway, let's go back to this here. All right. Now I want to get back to the part where he's showing the ones where they improvements, wheels, this, that. I want the part where you are showing. It's not there. I guess it must be back. Oh, there it is. Yeah, okay. The 2 rubber bands versus 1 rubber band experiment. And it does seem pretty... See, this one's not nearly as decisive. So in this experiment, it does look like this was not quite twice as fast. Now, the way it hits, it looks like there was a lot more energy, but it does seem to hit a lot harder. And there's a lot more flexing and bouncing and all that kind of crap going on, so there's a real indication of a lot more energy there. But this one was a lot more dramatic in terms of being on my side, proving the point. So watch that one more time and such. Come on. There we go. Yes, decisive victory. The person holding the ruler, unfortunately, didn't hold it very securely. Okay, anyway. I think it's enough of that. And such. I think you could see that, right? Yeah, hopefully that was visible. Oh, yeah, it was. All right, so he says, Dark Endless says, I had a little talk with a coworker about physics today. He mentioned time dilation and thought that the universe is expanding because of the Big Bang. He's got the wrong idea. Well, whatever. Yeah, I mean, this 99% of people believe this horseshit now because physicists say so. But I mean, the whole idea of how does the universe expand? Because I'm not expanding. My atoms aren't expanding. Where's the expansion actually happening? So the whole thing seems like such a preposterously silly theory, and it's all based on redshift. So it's not like they have some real evidence for this crap. All right, well, I guess I will preview tomorrow's post because I showed you an image of it, so I might as well read what it'll be tomorrow. So it's sort of that gravity test again, and it's just so hard to, it's kind of a complicated thing to explain, in words, but we'll see how I do. All right, so physics has made a mess of the concept of potential energy. So they use this word potential energy all the time, but they're really not talking about energy stored in a rubber band, for example. That's potential energy. When I stretch the rubber band, that's real because it's real energy. But gravity, if I hold something up in gravity, the thing doesn't have any potential energy. It's not a rubber band. There's no energy in this thing. There's energy right now. It's already going through my arm. So gravity is hitting it. And I'm collecting energy right now from this. But the stream of gravity is the energy. This doesn't have any potential. I mean, it's just stupid to say the thing has potential when the thing itself isn't doing any work. It's just going to be pushed by the stream when you let it go. So the stream has the potential energy, not the object you're going to move in it. The boat doesn't have the potential energy. The Mississippi River does. All right, energy is movement, and movement either travels like a stream of water or a stream of photons in a laser, or it is trapped, stored like in a circular orbit, or in the back and forth motion, or in the back and forth of a sealed elastic vessel. If you had a boat on the side of a river, it wouldn't make any literal sense to say the boat. Can't read that. Yeah. Let's see. Literal sense to say the boat had the potential energy to go down the river. Clearly, the river has all the energy, and if you put the boat in and allow it to freely collect the energy, then it can be said to have momentum or energy. Physics says something placed in at an altitude from a gravitational body has potential energy. This is misleading because the object has no stored energy, and like the boat tied to a dock, it's just transferring the current of the stream to whatever it's tied to or supported by. Gravity is the active river that you can allow things to float down. As they fall, they absorb the velocity of the stream and move faster and faster. Unlike a river of water, gravity is a river of stuff moving the speed of light. So in free fall, you will keep going faster and faster until you almost reach the speed of the water. Just a moment. All right, back. Another way of testing what energy you can collect from the river is to consider crossing a river of gravity. Just like a regular river, the slower you go across, the more time the current has to push you downstream. The obvious inverse, the faster you go, the faster you get across, the less energy from the river you will collect, and the less distance you will travel downstream. Rivers give energy in units of time, and so, in fact, does gravity. So, I think that's, yeah, not one of my favorite compositions, but whatever. It's, I think it explains the subject. It'll have to do, I guess, is what I'll say. But the point is made, I think, and I just think it's something that's very sloppy about physics, is they keep saying things that will be moved by something and keep saying it has the potential when it just doesn't. It has to be moved by a force. The force has the potential, and you have to take it from the force. You have to take the energy from the stream. You can't make the boat go without the boat taking the energy from the stream. It actually consumes some of the stream's motion. The stream moves less fast because it's pushing the boat. That's the fact. Alright, so I guess we're done. I don't see anybody. They're not my, well, we got 7 people, so wasn't a very crowded room tonight, and I guess it's been a couple of hours, so I guess there's no point in dragging it out. So, yeah, we'll see what tomorrow brings. Blah, 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 and such. And so forth, and whatnot. Yeah, I think that's enough. Okay, so, till next